Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday's edition of FS1 here in 2024. We had the absolutely wonderful duality of continuity of the number 44 with MS Performance, combined with years of persistence being paid off at long last for none other than Menno Clont. So here we go for another round. It's Eoin Harmon alongside Ed Hunter this evening here in Montreal. Ed, how's it going?
Oh, good, thanks. And it feels like we've got a very, very interesting round lined up here as we see the Keiki archive. I think that's Filing just tagging the wall there at turn 3, but in this warm-up. But yeah, we've got Victor Ivanov, the man second in the points because Mike Quint is now 25 points ahead, and I am mistaken, it is qualifying, so no wonder he was touching the wall. Luca Falin absolutely going for it then on his first lap. But it's Mike Quint, of course, who set the purple first sector, and he is leading the championship now for those 2 second places. But interestingly enough, we've also got Stefan Rural, winner of race 1 at Imola last time out, back in action. This time he is filling in for Wopke Hoekstra at HGP in the second car there, alongside Frank Hamming, who also finished on the podium in both races in third at Imola. So lots of big developments here, but great to see our top guys back in action. I'm expecting another Ivanov Quint battle at the front, and perhaps maybe the Netrexes and a couple of interlopers, for example, like Luca Filin, to feature today, Eoin.
Yeah, Montreal has that ability to open up the contests and bring forth some surprise winners and competitors. And early doors, it's Mirko Lucchini setting the fastest lap so far. Here he is on screen for Alpha Delta with the 117.3. Ivanov back in action after missing out 2 weeks ago. He is just 17 hundredths behind, and then you've got Quint and Watson and Rualt. So Rualt is the new signing for HGP, taking over from Wopke Hoekstra. So yeah, at the moment, yeah, it's definitely the case of the dominant drivers that we know very well taking up strong grid position so far. It's really the case of the lower half of the top 20, or the upper half of the top 20. You'll be looking for those final points to see what could potentially be a big upset. I know we can see Kvil Hausvik is a driver that you've personally backed, Ed, that he could finally get some points for 100 to 1.
Yeah, he came very, very close in race 2 in Imola, didn't he? In 16th position. He has to place outside in a couple of seconds, I think, off of the final point scorer in Imola, which on that occasion was, I believe, Hoekstra. Of course, isn't here today. So by process of elimination, even though we've got Ivanov back, we've lost Hoekstra. So there's a little bit of carnage and chaos, I reckon. Yeah, Kill Hauswick, or maybe even Sandra Van Sand, who's no slouch himself, could potentially get Ben Constantine's team their first point as we ride on board with Mike Quint, who has blown Lucchini's lap out the water. Lucchini, we have been saying the pace in practice as well, 117.136, and he was only 2 tenths slower on his first lap here, but Mike Quint has gone 117.070 on that previous effort, Eoin. So our championship leader, his confidence grows further and further, and has Ivanov got a big challenge on his hands to keep his race 1 streak going in the races he's attended this season.
Yeah, that's the question for definite. Having that 1 week off can disturb the flow of a top running driver. If they have to miss out on some time, they'll have to put in double the effort when they can get straight back into the action. And I'm just looking at last year's fastest lap from Freilich. It was a 118.1, so we're already slashing that best lap time in just 1 year. So let's see what Menno Clont can do. Man of the hour, the exceptional, wonderful drive that was in race 2 the last fortnight. So let's see if he can build up this new flying lap to see if he can improve on 18th.
Yep, of course, it was such a fairy tale for Menno, wasn't it? And it's definitely helped in no small part by the efforts of his teammate Mike Quint to get up the order, sort of be rear gunner for Menno and defend that second position for him from Frank Hamming. And of course, it was a Senna Stoffmehl as well before he was unfortunately untimely disconnected. That was challenging Menno for quite a lot of that race too. So it was a great fight. Menno really had to get his elbows out and take nothing away from him, but I think it was a team effort as well, as we see him just extending a little bit there through the second pair of chicanes there. That will be 7 and 8, I believe, at Montreal, at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, of course. Into the hairpin we go. The brake lights, well, not the brake lights, it's the actual brakes just heating up there. You see them glowing orange. There's a brake light at the back, but that really is the tail light for the rain. It only really flashes on and off if we're in wet conditions, essentially, which we haven't seen any reports of it raining here in Montreal. So it looks like it's going to be dry, but Menno, can he get himself into the top 15? It very much feels like 400th GP livery off. Menno is crashed down back to earth a little bit, down in 15th then, so he has improved ahead of Scott Mitchell-Marm, but only by 63 thousandths of a second. And then, looks like somebody else has bumped themselves up the order. That would be Mitchell-Marm himself, actually, who gets up to 6th as Lucchini now starting another lap. He's inched a bit closer to Quint then, 1:17.2. But I think Quint is putting a monster lap here, and I think he's going to take something very, very special to challenge, even of 8 thousandths behind Watson in 5th then. So this would be quite the turn up for the books then.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible from Mitchell-Marm to break up some of that previous thoughts I had of the drivers that we're familiar with at the top. Getting King's Racing stuck in now, that would be a huge boon to their campaign, knowing that they're trying their very best to compete after earning promotion last season. They're currently on 38 points in 12th, so yeah, it's a very fierce competition down in the mid-pack for these points. So getting a 6th place, akin to what we saw Oliver Taras get previously, that would be really, really valuable to Kings. But at the moment, it's really the case of Lucchini still trying to find the 1500ths of a second back on Quint, but so far not so good.
Yeah, and Mirko Lucchini, let's not take anything from his performance. Of course, he missed both Saudi Arabia and Japan, and he's been competing in the last 2 races in China and Imola, where he got 5th and 6th in China. It was a very strong round for the Alpha Delta team. But then San Marino, he didn't have a great race 1, but recovered to 6th in race 2. So Lucchini's certainly shown pace this season, but the results haven't always necessarily followed. As you see, Philip Koenig putting in a solid lap to get himself into the top 15 for Griffon in 14th, as Van der Smissen just gets as close as he can to the wall of champions. Can VMS get themselves into the top 20? They can do better than that. 14th position then. So Justin showing much better form than he has recently. That's very encouraging for VMS Sun Edits.
Yeah, excellent lap there. Van der Smissen can be pleased with that. Of course, there's still under 6 minutes to go. So a lot can change, considering Montreal is one of the shorter laps of the campaign. You'll be hitting, I suppose in Super League, you'd be in the 1:10s perhaps. So it is one of those tracks that you really do have to have the good cornering speed, and then of course the top speed down this wonderful Casino Straight by the river. That is where a lot of action can happen. You can get side by side before the final chicane. Frank Hamming darts straight into pit lane, knowing he wasn't satisfied with that lap. But Ivanov has gone purple here in sector 2. He could get his commanding ability to get near the front row or on pole itself on track. So he hits those curves violently, has to be said. That could have cost him dearly. He's going to push as hard as he can to the line. Yeah, that has ruined that lap, I'm afraid. But yeah, he's still got time to try again.
Yeah, shame for Ivanov then, but he will certainly regroup. He's certainly on the back foot here, which is a situation we're not used to seeing, as Russo also mounts the curbs in the middle sector. They're desperate to match up with what his teammates done. It seems, and I said this in the season preview at the beginning of the year, that Lucchini is the one with the bigger peaks, but Russo tends to be the slightly more consistent driver, and he certainly had an excellent sector 2 here, 8 thousandths quicker than Mike Quint, it seems. So let's see if he can finish this lap own, because Alpha Delta really want to get both cars into the first 2 rows of the grid here.
Without a doubt, they are really pushing hard to try and get onto the podium. For example, they haven't been so fortunate in 2024. Just missing out in the final sector there. Still personal best by all means for Federico, getting 7th place. He just misses out on trying to break Netrex and the former championship leader Ivanov's hold, just in that 3rd to 4th row sort of area. Rualt there just crossing the line for case of, I think the lap was slightly spoiled at the end. Yeah, he just missed out narrowly after that final sector. But here's Jack Nicholls, who wants to take inspiration from his teammate and find another half a second perhaps. So far he's about 0.3 better off than his previous lap, so this would get him well into the points. Let's see what he can do. Yes, it's 15, so just that final sector out, it is catching a few drivers out.
Yeah, there we go. And he had actually one of the cleaner runs over the chicane, so perhaps his run out of the hairpin was maybe where he lost a bit of time there. But yeah, Jack Nicholls certainly building up his confidence on his return, because we haven't seen him in a while, since the first 2 rounds, I don't think. So great to see him back in action as we look at Patrick Roszak for Parallax Volpino. Of course, got some strong results. Unfortunately, didn't he came a little bit to grief, didn't he, at the very end, Roszak, in race 2 with Omari Watson. Unfortunately, while we were celebrating Renault, those two unfortunately kind of came together in a slightly controversial incident. But Roszak, it's been good to see him. He's certainly upped his game in this middle phase of the season with his pace. And there we go, just inserting himself into the top 10 then, ahead of Frank Hamming, crucially, but behind Tom Saverly, who's actually improved himself up to 8th with a 117.4, as Mike Quint is going yet faster. Eoin.
Yes, yeah, he is on course. If this final sector is successful, then he will perhaps dig into the 116s. Oh, it's narrowly better. 117.05, so 200ths better. Puts Mirko that little extra further behind. And yeah, it is absolutely exceptional to see Quint driving like this in qualifying. He knows last year he got solid points here. It helped him build up towards the championship lead.
He was on the podium here in race 1 last year, wasn't he?
He might have won race 1, yeah.
No, he was on the podium. He was
on the podium, yeah. 3rd and 5th, I think, were his results from here.
Yeah, it was. Second was Mayer, and I think it was who was the
Harvey won.
Park Racing? Thomas Harvey. That was it. He won last year in race 1. But anyway, here's Luke Mitchell. Remember how well he did in Imola on the front row, of course, behind Stefan Ruolt before those two came together in the race. So completely manning the curbs there, but it didn't hurt his momentum too much. He pulls out to the right. That's the shorter line. Is it going to be enough? It's enough for 5th position there. So Luke Mitchell gets himself just ahead of Omari Watson by 0.07 of a second. Watson himself instead of Ivanov by 0.08 of a second. So it's narrow millimetric margins that are making up this grid. The top 13 separated by half a second, and then the top 24 separated by just 0.09 as well. So it's very narrow field spread then.
Not a doubt, yeah. It is superbly impressive to have 24 drivers within the second margin of our pole sitter. And yeah, of course, 27 entries in total are currently on track. Federico Russo currently looking strong to improve on his previous best time. And now he's lost a little bit of that advantage that he's held. So it is well and truly possible he can perhaps improve his personal best time. But Watson having set a 1:17.2. That could be a little bit tricky to catch up to as we head to the final 10 seconds before the checkered flag waves. So Russo looks like if he has fuel on board, he hits the wall of champions. So it's going to hit 0 just as he finishes this lap. So not quite enough top speed, but it is a PB, a purple sector 3, and he joins his teammate in the top 3. So he's just behind Mirko, and he's ahead of Stefan Ruolt.
Oh my God, that was so risky in the final sector, wasn't it, Eoin, from Federico Russo? But it paid off for Alpha Delta then, and now they've got a car on the front row and one at the head of the second row as well. So that is a brilliant effort for them, and brilliant for Mike Quint as well, because he's now got 5 cars between himself and Viktor Ivanov, who, let's not forget, is 25 points behind him in the Drivers' Championship, with Harry Smith's late effort enough to get him back in front of Ivanov. And now Frank Hamming desperately trying to just break in to the top 10 at the death in Montreal.
Oh no! Oh, you could feel that one. That was a proper hit against the wall of champions. He's left debris and a tire behind. Menno Clant comes across it, just managing to avoid making that same error. He had just unfortunately put off through the final chicane and does not improve. So it's going to be a long dig up the grid here for Menno. yeah, of course, the high of winning 2 weeks ago. It still keep him well and truly motivated, regardless of any feelings about his lap not quite paying off there, Ed.
Yeah, so Frank Hamlin got on the curb and then was just lifted towards the wall, essentially. He was a passenger in that one, I think, but big. I said he was going to break into the top 10. The only thing he broke was his car, sadly. But look down in 14th, Eoin Kilhausvik for 100 to 1 has qualified just inside the points there. Brilliant effort from the 100 to 1 driver, the Brit. Really impressing. Net tucked right in between the two Rookie Monsters cars.
Yeah, that's wonderful to see. We now have our full grid summary now. We can look forward to. It's MMF. It's Mike Quint ahead of Mirko Lucchini and Federico Russo. Stefan Rualt's P4 there on the second row ahead of Harry Smith. Then Victor Ivanov not quite able to get back to premium performance for MS performance there, but 6 is still solid enough, with Luke Mitchell again looking to pull some tricks out of the hat after Imola 2 weeks ago. Watson, Mitchell, Malm, and Satterley complete the top 10. Patrick Roszak on his own for Parallax Volpino is 11th, with Frank Hamming P12 at the moment. Mulling, Phil Hausvik, and Scott complete the top 15. So excellent for Team Rookie Monsters also. Philip Koenig for Griffon in 16th. Menno down in 17th there. David De Vries, Matthew Zabinski, and Jack Nichols are in the top 20. And our final 6 drivers here, it's Van der Smissen, and then a rather worrying trend here for Kaizen Kota Racing. They've Hilla 22nd, with Sellers and Dabrowski together 23rd and 24th, and then the other KKR with Lucas Tylene didn't really get a proper time going there. He's 25th. Jonas Abler and Sandro Van Sand are the final drivers ready to take to our grid. Of course, we have the 10-minute warm-up session now, Ed. So is there anything you've noticed, as well as the likes of Owen Phil Hausvik or anything like that?
It's interesting that Phylan and Abler right near the back of the grid there, because we heard so much from both of them that they've like to share their setups with each other as well. So perhaps they've both got the wrong one on today, and maybe they've led each other down the wrong end of the garden path, as it were. Interesting comments in the chat. This is the most ego-driven comment ever. I'll tell you what the comment is, and then you have to guess who said it, Eoin.
Oh, okay.
The comment is, didn't know Moynier was driving for Multiforce today. Can you guess who said that?
Oh, was it Alex?
No, it's Loic Moynier himself.
Oh,
it was a
okay.
big clue there when I mentioned ego, but that made me laugh quite a lot. Lots of fans. It says the Luke fan club is here, so I'm assuming that's Luke Mitchell that's being talked about there. Alex Who is in the chat. He says, "Okay, Mike, this is pole already. Stop the count." And that was from literally after that first run from Mike Quint. So turned out to be prophetic there. Massimiliano Riboli says, "Some cars missing. Can I get an emergency seat in one of those?" Someone is very keen, because he did a few races with Kings, didn't he? And he got a point or two, didn't he, Massimiliano Riboli? So he is, even though he's not on track at the moment, he's 25th in the championship. He did show pretty well in Miller, wasn't he? 9th in race 2 as well. So
correct, yeah, he had a really good show. I suppose, yeah, that last corner instance as well that you spotted, Ed, that did promote Riboli up a place. So yeah, that was just a little bit of attentive driving for Riboli that got him an extra point. So that was really well performed at his home track. Now, as we head into our warm-up session, strategy should be fairly handy enough here. I think it's more your brakes that you have to worry about than the tires around Montreal. So I'd imagine it is a routine one-stopper for the feature race. Maybe some drivers could go in the sprint. They could perhaps go long on the hards and then quick on the softs to make up all that time. It's all very possible, wouldn't you agree?
Certainly, yeah. It would be interesting to see how the undercut works here, because we've seen it used to good effect, but this can be a bit of a circuit that chews a little bit through the tyres through some of the faster stuff. But straight line speed is also going to be key here. It's really this back straight that you see Rualt going down now, where you're probably going to see most of the moves made, apart from maybe using the run out of that final chicane through into turn 1 is another good opportunity as well. But yeah, especially the first lap, as ever at Montreal, it's about staying out of trouble as we see Royal just navigate the Wall of Champions very, very cleanly there. But you're going to see it's going to be tricky, I think, for Ivanov on this first lap because he's not going to be so used to running at the back. Whereas I think Mike Quint, by contrast, as long as he can stay ahead of the two Alpha Deltas, who've got a brilliant opportunity today to really upset the form book and improve their standing in the team's table. Remember, they are 5th at the moment, Alpha Delta, on exactly the same number of points as KKR Racing, who are far, far down the grid. So this is a big, big opportunity for them to not only extend their lead in 5th in the team's table, but also to close on HDP on 146 points as well. Of course, HDP, they've got Rot right up there, and Hamming, we know, just inside the top 10. He could well make his way forward, as he tends to do in race ones.
Yeah, very much possibility there. So I'm hearing word that perhaps Massimiliano Riboli has been granted an entry into this warm-up. Could be, yeah, it seems to be approved by Chris Williamson that he can start from our pit lane. So he has found a vacancy, turned up, and it paid off.
But there's only one Griffone car and only one Pixelate, so yeah. It's one of those two, you would assume, given that we got 28 cars on the grid, 27 cars, I should say, at the moment. So late entry from Riboli, but you know, you don't ask, you don't get, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a situation. I know in football sometimes, in the case of an assistant referee becoming injured, one of the fans might have to take over the role as fourth official or something like that. So yeah.
We had this in FS2, my team,
of course.
100% simulation. We had the race in Jeddah, where unfortunately one of my drivers, Faid Ahmed, had a computer issue that he didn't tell us about before qualifying. He tried to fix it before qualifying, couldn't, and then at the end of qualifying he says, yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to have to drop out of this one. It's like, oh, I wish you told me earlier, Fahid. But I went up on the phone with Caroline Harvick. Caroline agreed to do it. He said, oh, let me practice for 20 minutes and I'll hop in for race 2 from the back of the grid. We got permission, it was all fine, and yeah, I think she finished 21st in that one, given that she'd done pretty much no practice. I think that was a pretty strong performance, and Caroline's some pretty solid runs, I think, in FS2, considering her lack of experience at that level, and she's been pedaling along nicely, qualifying quite well, actually, in Academy, as well as getting her first podium in Road America. So we're as much as the focus is on Joe Gillette on our team, doing very, very well in FS2, in the recent rounds. He's got a bit of a point-scoring streak at the moment. I think Caroline has been quietly getting on with things in the background, which is good to see.
Yeah, fair play to her for making that effort. But yeah, as well as, yeah, you were definitely on the ball there with your...
Right, that's it. No more. No, I won't promote my team anymore.
Football. So yeah, that makes a lot of logical sense. But yeah, it turns up and it works out. So yeah, if Riboli can use that pit lane start, maybe catch up to maybe a few drivers who are battling hard. Like I know there was collisions galore in a previous race, I think earlier in the Imola. Someone else would have been ruining the fact that there was a huge crash, and I forget exactly which series it was, but yeah, it was definitely an absolutely humongous...
Super lights, I think it was.
Yeah, it was lights. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And Remco Zeeuw lets out a bit of a groan of recognition there, and go, yeah. I think Remco's on the ones who survived the pilot, actually.
That's fair, Remco, yeah.
He says the easiest P5 of his life in the background. Remco doing the broadcaster for those
yes,
who
indeed, yes. You never know. You may as well take the opportunity. Of course, drivers that have been prepared in advance, we see most of the lap times are coming through with Rualt. The fact that he has gotten a new drive after substituting for Victor Ivanov in the 44 last time out. Yeah, he's got himself the HGP car this time in place of Wopke Hoekstra. And then, of course, Alpha Delta looking mighty quick with Russo again threatening the top of the order. And then Quint, of course, he should have plenty of experience around this track, and he should have his preferred strategy in mind, see if he can make it work. And then we've Smith, Satterley, and Scott Mitchell-Malm all together there 5th through 7th. So yeah, a lot of good drivers and good performances in qualifying being repeated here in this warm-up to get everyone on course for their for their feature race. Of course, the drivers who have to start the race on the compound they qualified on, that's their priority without doubt. And others from 16th down could have their free choice. So we are on board now with Phil Hausvik, so he must be thinking about his second stint. So yeah, it is good to see he's running in some consistent lap times.
Yep. It's funny how some teams, like when Savily got into the car that Gas Rietveld was originally going to drive, they put Savely's name on, whereas Phil Hausvik's been driving Archie Marritt's car for a while now, but they still haven't put Owen's name on it. I guess it costs a little bit extra to do some deliveries sometimes, but interestingly, Massimiliano Riboli has jumped into the pit slate number 99, which of course would usually be driven by Isaac Clarke, of course, who so nearly won race 2 in Shanghai, and was also on pole in Saudi Arabia. So great to see Massimiliano getting another go out in FS1, and he could potentially, like you say, Owen, if he stays out of trouble, there could be some points in it. Of course, he's done all the FS2 practice, but we'll have to see how relevant that really is to the FS1 car with its improved power and downforce, of course. Although you imagine at Montreal the preference tends to be to run lower downforce setups, and we see a visible illustration of that with the Multiforce just passing the Griffon there of Koenig.
So Riboli taking those curbs with aplomb there, so he'll get his first official lap time of the session locked in his next attempt. So this is his out lap turned into his flying lap, and yeah, you just want to make sure those drivers ahead are behaving themselves. And there you go, you can see on the MS performances have to yield, knowing they're not going to compete with a solid lap time this go around. So yeah, good to see for Riboli. Other drivers who want to get some side-by-side practice in, that's their prerogative. So yeah, making sure the road ahead is nice and clear for this lap time to be set. There you go, another car out of the way. And just seeing, oh, he's going to miss the ideal apex there, so he took a little bit too much curve there, but he avoided counter steer. He didn't have to go to that extreme. So you got a good slipstream here, Ed, on the back straight. And yeah, kick up a dust there, so maybe that's completely made redundant. I apologise.
I think that was Koenig just calling the session off for him. But yeah, Riboli, I don't envy him going into the race with only one lap, on low fuel tanks under his belt. And also with a setup he probably hasn't got that much experience of. And he's being commentated on by us as well. Certainly being put under the microscope, as it were. But there we go. What lap's that for 22nd position? That's a 120.1 on the soft tyre. So respectable, not too exceptional, but certainly respectable and a very good effort given the lack of practice he's had. But unfortunately, he will not get another one because the session is almost about to tick over.
Yeah, the session was finished by the time he crossed the line, but I suppose he wants to push while he can anyway. So even if it is the session over and the lap won't count, he may as well just try and push while it's clear to do so, and then he'll be teleported to pit lane, and he'll have any very last minute opinions. I'm sure he'll be given the information from Pixelate on what they suggest to do, knowing they have some data to rely on via Jonas Abler, of course. So yeah, that'll be something that's brought to him, but it's really up to him how he feels the car had behaved itself on that lap, and perhaps using his experience from other rounds, maybe that could pay off as well.
Certainly could. So I've just been thinking really about our pole sitter, Mike Quint, who put in that excellent effort just a few short minutes ago, Owen, and I wonder, now that even I've had to miss a race, now that he's 25 points ahead in the championship, we've never really seen him in this position before. And I think maybe after what was such a strong weekend in Imola, where he was second in both races, I think maybe his confidence is sky high. And I think there was also the feel-good element of not having to ask Menno to move over for the win. I think letting Menno take that win was, although he maybe, you can say, oh, well, that's 4 points he left on the table in the Drivers' Championship. It did the team atmosphere and Menno's mood as well, a whole load of good as well. And I think maybe that's really helped Mike Quint to be in a very, very good place mentally going into this one, because I think that does play a factor, especially in qualifying when the pressure's on. He just absolutely delivered, and he didn't need a second time of asking. In fact, I think it was third or fourth lap he was even faster. I think both laps he did were good enough for pole, though.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ed. I suppose Motorforce have that continuity. So the fact that Mike was willing to put his personal ambitions aside for Menno to complete his long-term dream of winning again, the fact that he can now trust him, I'm sure he could ask Menno later in the season for a favour in return if the championship is going down to the wire. So yeah, that long, persistent effort for Menno was realised, and of course I'm sure he'll want to make sure he wins again just to prove it wasn't a one-off situation, that he can keep up the form. But yeah, I do believe if the pressure really is at the highest, then you can put faith in Menno to help him out, make sure Quint can compete for the title. So yeah, I do believe they are one of the strongest units, and we saw that 2 weeks ago, knowing Mike could have won the race. He really felt like it, but nevertheless, we have our formation lap coming up, so we're looking forward to running down that grid once again.
Yep, and it's Eoin we're going to have to keep our eyes out, because he's got Luke Mitchell right behind him and Harry Smith ahead of him. So he's got two very, very quick British drivers either side of him. So a sandwich for Eoin.
Yeah, it will be tricky. But Mike Quint on pole position with Alpha Delta second and third. Lucchini ahead of Russo there. Stefan Rualt back in action with a new team in P4. Harry Smith wins the NetRex head-to-head there, beating the former championship leader Eoin into sixth position there. Luke Mitchell seventh and Amari Watson eighth. Got Mitchell now one of the stars of the session there, getting ninth place ahead of Tom Satterley in the other MS Performance car in 10th. Patrick Rorschach on his own for Parallax Volpino ahead of Frank Hamming. We have Team Rookie Monsters on the left-hand side there, Mulling and Scott 13th and 15th. Phil Hausvik and Philip Koenig there 14th and 16th. There we are now, Menno Clant in 17th ahead of David De Vries, P18. Then we've Zabinski and Nichols, 19th and 20th. Justin van der Smissen and Maciej Hilla, 21st and 22nd here. VMS on edits ahead of Kaizen Kota, Bradley Sellers and Matthias Dabrowski, 23rd and 24th. Then we've Lucas Tylene ahead of Jonas Abler, 25th and 26th. Sander Van Sand, 27th. And the very, very, very last minute substitute, Massimiliano Raboli, in the other Pixel 8 will start from pit lane in P28 and last. We have a huge, massive fan club for Mr. Raboli forming. So yeah, that could be the other fairy tale that the fans really pushed for the success of Menno Clant 2 weeks ago. So maybe a miracle from the back of the grid and pit lane in this feature race could occur. You never really know.
Yeah, and there's Harry Smith just going all the way to the outside, and he's got an interesting lineup on the grid there to try and get as much of the inside for ahead of turn one as he can. But yeah, Quint needs to be careful here, because if Lucchini gets a good start, we saw how quick he was when he finished runner-up to Simon Frelick, wasn't it, at Spa last year, just as it rained in the latter stages of that race. He was really strong as well. So Lucchini, he's no slouch whatsoever. Him and Russo could be the real flies in the ointment here as far as Mike Quint is concerned. So he needs to make sure he doesn't trip up here. So here we go.
Lights are on. We can see them in the top left corner, and there go. Green flag. Here comes Lucchini on the outside. Can he pull off the move using turn 2 to his advantage? Quint defending hard. It could be advantage to Lucchini. Watch out for the traction though. They'll go side by side into 3 and 4. Russo watching attentively to see what could happen next. And Lucchini leads.
Oh my goodness, there. Mike Quint just had to back off there. You could tell he was not happy about that one, but Lucchini got the better launch off the line, was able to go round the outside, take the inside for turn 2. And despite some contact there, Mike Quint had to give way, so that's not ideal. But let's not forget, we've still got 34 laps after this one in which Mike Quint can recover. Maybe some good strategy can get the Motorforce back in the lead. But for Alpha Delta, this is about as good as they could have hoped for. Russo keeping the rest of the pack at bay, and Lucchini can potentially now start to sprint away here. The DRS, once that opens, that's going to be a really good opportunity for Mike Quint to counter-attack here. But meanwhile, Rult has done well to hold on to fourth as Ivanov has cleared Smith for fifth position.
Yeah, that's a valuable job done on this first lap for Ivanov. But yeah, Alpha Delta now trying to squeeze Quint into their trap and make sure they can work together before DRS is fully enabled. But Rualt also watching to see what could happen. And yeah, the first lap is completed. So yeah, it seems fairly stable in the top 10 with the exception of the passes that we just discussed. So yeah, Mitchell Malm 9th ahead of Satterley in 10th. Watson seeing if there's any way to help his teammate and push on next time around. So here's Satterley ahead of Roshak. In fairness to Philip Koenig, he's 14th on the hard compound, so he has made some gains.
Yeah, and we have seen 3 retirements by the end of the first lap. Sandra Van Sand and Matthias Dabrowski for 100 to 1 in Hyperion Esports, and Luca Pfeilen, the man who was in 6th in the championship going into this round. It's a more disappointment for Luca then, which is a big shame. Although I think he just went into the pits. He's actually come out now, so I've got the race for you. So it tells me the same info if they're in the pits or if they've retired. So that's always a bit confusing. But anyway, Lucchini then has set a purple first sector on this second lap, but it's Quint tellingly who's a couple of hundredths quicker through sector 2 then. So here we go, he's getting very, very close in anticipation of the DRS opening up here. Mike Quint, despite faltering a bit at the start, still looks very, very confident, Eoin.
Without a doubt, yeah, he will be comforted by the fact that Russo, he did not really pull out the strong lap. So Quint with the fastest lap, tie for fastest lap, as a matter of fact, 119.2. So Russo lost 2/10 that last lap, and that made a huge difference on that back straight. Phil Hausvik here in 15th with the helicopter cam. He's got Koenig just in front of him in the Griffon, Menno Klont just behind. So yeah, this could be a really tasty battle for the final championship point, or potentially to double it in P14. So now DRS will become a factor now in this turn 7 through 8 back straight. So here we go, the rear wings will push open. Phil Hausvik, he should be confident that maybe not now, but certainly in just a short while, that he can make a genuine attack, as the Griffon wants to go longer in this first stint.
Yeah, Menno getting a little bit too close to the back of the 100 to 1 there. But yeah, this isn't ideal for Kilhausvik because Koenig on the harder tyres has gotten past him for 14th position, so there's a train forming behind Koenig. But look at this, Quint gaining with the DRS. He's going to try and go all the way around the outside into the chicane. Lucchini brakes late and holds on as they are about to start lap 4 then, but Mike Quint hasn't given up as they approach turn 1, and look behind at Rult challenging Russo as well.
Yeah, so all change could be the matter of fact now. Russo defending as hard as he can. He's kept it, but it is Mike Quint taking the race lead and using that double DRS after the Race of Champions chicane. That was irresistible. Lucchini had no way of denying the Dutchman the chance to lead the race once again. So here we go. Rualt, he'll be also eager to see what gaps may appear with Russo just doing his utmost to stay within that 1 second of his teammate. Yeah, it would be better for Alpha Delta if Lucchini can keep up with Quint, and if Russo is under pressure, then yeah, I'd say they'd rather the chance for Mirko Lucchini to win the race and get those valuable points. But of course, Russo, he will gain in the concertina effect here at the hairpin, of course. So yeah, these top 5 drivers all in a very noticeable line.
Yeah, Quint was 6/10 faster in the final sector. Of course, that's the difference potentially with DRS, but also the straight line speed was just mighty on that multiforce compared to both of the Alpha Deltas, really. And I think it's a similar story with Rult. He just looks so much quicker down the straights, but in the corners, the Alpha Deltas seem to gain a lot of that time back. At least that's my interpretation from where I'm sitting. But an interesting situation for Ivanov here, because he's stuck behind Rult, who of course filled in for him, was effectively standing and helping him try and defend his championship lead from Mike Quint. And he did a great job to win race 1 in Imola last time out. But now it's kind of a role reversal. Rult, far from helping Ivanov, is actually holding up, preventing him getting into this podium battle at the moment.
Yeah, how things change. We have a replay coming now Let's see what it is. Oh, it's down the back. So this would have been the incident that took Dabrowski and Van Sand out of the contest. Oh, that's what happened. So the Bradley Sellers Lunar got spun, and unfortunately Dabrowski had nowhere else to go, and he clattered into that barrier. And Tylene, with no front wing, had to pit for repairs, but I think he has indeed set himself out of the race. He can't rescue the situation from there, so it'll be 3 DNFs confirmed this time.
Yeah, gutting for Tylene. Remember, he had so many strong performances, those 2 race 2 wins in Saudi Arabia and Shanghai. So this is him after he's put the wing on, and you can see the car's not handling correctly, so there must have been more terminal damage there. Lucchini, interestingly, has stayed within a tenth as we see. Oh, that must be a De Vries also having an emergency pit stop there for some fresh tyres. Very, very early stop for the hards for David De Vries. After just 3 laps, actually he started on hards as well, so I imagine there must be something else going on there for VMS Sun Edits. Van der Smissen is right behind Kilhausvik now, who has dropped behind Zabinski and Koning, as Klont has gotten himself up to 14th at the head of that sort of train essentially that was fighting for 14th position. So good progress made by Menno.
Yeah, that's really important for him to get into the points now, and he has a huge gap in front of him if he can break that DRS, and it looks like he has reached that chance of breaking DRS. If he can just get through these middle sectors cleanly, then he has a chance to pull away and catch up to Robin Mulling. But these 4 drivers behind, race leader Quinn, and of course you can look back at Smith, Mitchell and Watson too. They're also in range, but yeah, the big traffic jam keeping all these drivers compacted at the moment. So Quint has reached a +1 second advantage here, put in an excellent lap time. I think it was lap 4 into 5. He was 8/10 better off than Lucchini. But yeah, you can see now Russo feeling more confident this lap. He's gained 2/10 on his teammate. And now here's Riboli. He's already up to 22nd, and he's got Daniel Scott for competition.
Yep, so Riboli, he's cleared his teammate Abler, and now he's going to try and go all the way around the outside of the rookie monsters of Scott into turn 1. Scott leaves plenty of room. Is he going to squeeze him from the outside just a little bit? Somehow they avoid contact, and Riboli has got the line then as they go through 3 and 4. So Riboli gaining confidence. You don't need any practice, you just need to make clean moves, and that's what he's doing so far. But the interesting story at the front for me is Russo using the DRS from the back of Lucchini to try and defend against Ruot there. The Alpha Delta is working well at the moment, but the more pressure that Ruot and Ivanov put on them, and Russo is sort of in a very, very unenviable position playing a rear gunner for his teammate then. We've seen Alpha Delta try this before at a few other races. Shanghai, they tried to do this as well, and they used it to good effect in race 1 there. To get both cars home in the top 6, top 7 essentially. But I think Ruot's going to be a tougher nut to keep behind essentially.
Yeah, he will be really motivated by the fact that Frank Hamming in 12th, he hasn't been able to make any significant passes. So yeah, HDP will be rallying him on to make sure he can deliver these points for HGP. Really vital for them, knowing they are trying to pull away from Alpha Delta in this constructors battle, and knowing Alpha Delta are locking at the podium, that's even more concerning if you are in HGP's orbit or are a fan of them.
Yeah, looks like Kilhausvik has cleared Zabinski and Van der Smissen now, so mistake from Justin on what's turning into a pretty difficult day for VMS Sun Edits. But a very good day for Multiforce at the moment, with Quint continuing to extend his advantage over Lucchini, who's got no answer at the moment. He's more worried about those cars in behind. It's turning into a defensive race really for Alpha Delta from this point onwards. And I wonder if Lucchini might be one of our first to pit then. But lots of support for Mirko in the chat as we look at Rozak battling with Savali for the final top 10 position. Interestingly, Rozak and Mulling both setting personal best lap times last time around. So I'm interested to see how much progress they can make as Rot once again gearing up for another attack on Federico Russo.
Indeed, but it's still proving very difficult in the equal machinery. Whatever straight advantage he has, it's neutralized by the DRS. If he's better in the corners, it's very difficult to get alongside. in advance, but if anything, even off. He's getting that front wing very close to the gearbox, and sparks kick up there. So yeah, it is really important to stay alert to anything in front of you, knowing that the gap is virtually a few fractions of a second. So now we're heading into this other back straight for a shot of DRS. But already, yeah, Lucchini is really doing his teammate a big favor here, knowing that the fact that he has no DRS of his own, but he can drag Russo along with him.
Yeah, Luke Mitchell, also in those last couple of laps, really pushing. They showed a shot of just from the wall of champions at the final chicane. You could see Luke Mitchell was sort of trying to correct the steering whilst sort of two of his wheels are in the air, essentially, which was quite extraordinary. But yeah, personal best first sector on this lap. And he's another tenth quicker in sector 2 as Rot again pulls out. Yes, Smith, of course, getting the DRS from the back of Ivanov at the moment. It's a sort of similar situation to the one that Rot is having with Russo getting the tow from Lucchini as well. So at the moment, you have to say, Mike Quint, this is all really going to plan, despite what happened on the first lap, as we see Kilhausvik is having an excellent fight with Koenig for the final point. And at the moment, it's the British driver that's ahead.
Oh, we're getting side by side here with Koenig trying to defend from Zubinski, though. These are drivers both on the hard compound, so it's a fair fight. And now they're the switchback, but wheel to wheel banging. And of course, Maciej Hilla is watching on to see what could happen here. Justin van der Smissen in front as well. So 4 drivers all really alert to the situation, and make it 5 because Raboli is in the view as well. Gotta stay calm though. Don't drag it in. Oh, the contact is made. It was just inevitable, I'm afraid.
Oh, you saw at turn 5 there, Koenig trying to sell a dummy on Matthias Zubinski there, and it completely not working out as he slots in behind Bradley Sellers as the 2 pick slates now congregate there, Raboli and Abler in 19th and 20th. But yeah, Zubinski, and as we see, they're still fighting along. Van der Smissen and Hiller going side by side there for 17th, as now Rock continues to be stuck behind the 2 Alpha Deltas as Mike Quint just continues to lap very, very consistently. In fact, Lucchini has actually started to up his pace a little bit, but he was 4/10 slower on the lap they just completed than Mike Quint then. So you have to say, once Quint sort of starts getting into 2-3 seconds ahead, he's sort of in a position where it's going to be difficult for Lucchini to even undercut him at the first pit stop, unless Mike Quint stays out a long time on these soft tyres, as Raboli now use the DRS up the inside of Van der Smissen.
Wow, this is as good as a first third of the race that you could have expected from a driver that turned up in the hope that a job was available, and he's doing it to an extremely good standard. He's ahead of his teammate now, and he's pushing as hard as he can to try and get the position off Justin van der Smissen. I do notice new DNF is Jack Nichols for Kings Racing out of the race. Oh, that looked like Abler wide, and he's fallen 3 places there. So he's gone down to 23rd position, allows Daniel Scott a turn of the top 20. I
love how it's sort of stalemate up at the front in that sort of top 8 battle, isn't it? And then they cut down to the battle for 16th, 17th, 15th sort of place, and they're going too wide into almost every corner in some cases there. So no, they don't know the meaning of the word DRS trying down there, but at least it doesn't seem to at the moment, as we see Luke Mitchell set a personal best lap of the race, 1:19.2. That was quite a bit faster than Harry Smith. He's down just 2 tenths behind. If you look at Russo continuing to defend gamely from Stefan Rot, who's now actually starting to fall into the clutches of Ivanov. So perhaps Alpha Delta's efforts are starting to pay off here. Lucchini is starting to look a little bit more comfortable in second position, but only marginally. This could turn on a dime. Yeah,
and you think about pit stops as well. Very tricky decisions to make in the Alpha Delta pit wall. They know they've got to support both these drivers, but Lucchini has held second place for the majority of the race. Of course, he did lead briefly, so they'll be thinking, how can we help our driver stay in second place, but also keeping Russo high up in the grid as possible, because the undercut or the overcut could be one or the other could prove crucial around here. But so far, all these drivers look really strong on the tires, giving a very good quality of lap consistently. So yeah, I still believe they'll be going another while on these tires. But here's Rual, here's his chance.
Yeah, here we go into turn 1. And Rousseau's got the outside jaw, just about loses the back end there, but collects himself up and now has to defend the middle of the road. Let's look at Rock getting a little bit wide on the outside. That opens the door for Ivanov to potentially try something there. So you saw going into that final chicane, Rousseau, I thought that the Alpha Deltas were going to swap positions there, but actually that was Rousseau defending from Rual, had a really good run down the back straight out of the hairpin then. So Rob is really getting aggressive here, and look at the gap starting to open up now between Lucchini and Russo. Is Russo doing the job to keep the HGP behind? And look at how desperate Rob is getting, trying these unconventional moves here. And if he trips up, Ivanov will be through instantly. And don't forget about Harry Smith waiting in the wings as well.
Yeah, the Netrex drivers separated with Luke Mitchell in between them in 7th as well. So these drivers are going to really close upon each other very quickly, but if that rear wing doesn't open for Russo, then he's a lame duck. Unfortunately, there's nothing he can do except watch and just cringe that Rualt has overtaken him. Oh, and he's gone wide at the final chicane, and that opens the door to Ivanov, potentially Smith as well. Got to be careful. And indeed Mitchell also having a look.
And there we go, Russo getting very aggressive to keep Smith behind there. I wonder if Smith might be saying he has to give the place back because he cut the chicane. Look at this, Luke Mitchell now has got Watson trying to go up the inside of him, but Watson quite wisely backs out there for 4 and 5 there. So as we see Hill Hausvik and Hiller hitting from just outside the points then. So they're going for the hards now. They think 14 laps on the softs is the most they can get out of them. So this could potentially see the front runners, all the top 14, on the soft tyres. They might start to react to this then if Kiel Hausvik potentially can get into the pit window here.
Absolutely, yeah. So Mike Wynn extending that lead, of course. He's kept it pretty stable at the 2 to 2.5 second mark at the moment. And yeah, Lucchini with no support from behind. You'll have to put every bit of energy into those tires as possible before the pit strategies begin. So if anything, one of these drivers perhaps stuck in the queue may want to take a gamble. But Frank Hamming, how long has he waited for this? He gets his place off Patrick Roszak at long last.
There we go, Frank Hamming. Sometimes it takes him a while, but he always seems to get his man, doesn't he? And there we go, Patrick Roszak was his target, and he overcame him in the end as Van der Smissen now up the inside. Oh, but then the Pixelator just immediately goes into the pits, which seems to slightly catch Van der Smissen out there as he got very close to the Wall of Champions. But there we go, that was Riboli, of course, making his first stop on lap 15 to get off of the soft tyres, which makes sense. He's not used the hard tyres before, so let's hope Riboli can adjust to the lower but more consistent grip levels across this next stint then, as Harry Smith now he fancies another go at Russo, who since falling behind Rural and Ivanov is now looking much more vulnerable than he did in the first 12 laps or so.
Yeah, without a doubt. So Smith now seeing if there is an opportunity to get Russo definitively for this 5th position. Maybe some of these spotters will be watching out for Riboli's lap times to see if he is putting in the urgency that can begin these top drivers thinking about their pit stops. So there we go, Harry Smith has completed the move, and Russo, I think he has put perhaps a flat spot into the rear tire because he is beginning to weave around and slide. So he may have to think I have to pit a bit earlier than expected. So Mitchell, Malm and Satterley have responded. So they will be hoping to retain their strong positions in 9th and 10th and push on with the hard tyres.
Yeah, that's true. I think Mitchell Malm was being to be caught by Savali as well just before that, so they should be quite close on the pit exit then together. But I think Savali is going to come out behind, is he? Yes, he is, just about. I think they've got a couple of cars in between. Yeah, there is Savali, and where is Mitchell Malm? Actually, Savali is ahead. I spoke way too soon there. Mitchell Malm is behind Abler and Koenig then. This has worked out really well, actually, for MS Performance. He's just got to clear Daniel Scott quickly, and he's got a nice clear bit of track to Van der Smissen in which to pump in some times.
Yeah, Mitchell Mam lost time in the pits. That is pretty clear to see. He's lost nearly 2 seconds in this first sector alone. So Kings will be crestfallen by that, but yeah, there's still time to make up that loss in the second stint. But here we go. Pit lane time for Rualt and I believe Russo as well.
Yep, there we go. So Rualt was decides he's the best way to get past Lucchini is to undercut him. Rozak is throwing in the towel on those soft as well. As look at Luke Mitchell trying to over-rotate into turn 1 essentially. And they're just about getting the car under control. So the soft's really decaying at this point for those who push quite hard to sort of stay in the DRS train essentially. And look how close to the wall Watson gets as well, but somehow he avoids making contact then. So where's Rualt come out? He's come out in 10th, 23 seconds down on the lead. So this surely is going to promote Quint and Lucchini to respond here.
Yeah, they'll know they can't dwell on these tires much longer because there is a gap between Menno Klont and Stefan Rualt that they can slot into pretty neatly with a clean stop. And then they will have that 1 lap advantage on tires if they pit right now. Mike might be tempted to go another lap longer, but I would agree with you, Ed. It makes sense to respond immediately using that gap in the road that you can put full beans into the tires. So yes, it is indeed Quint responding, Lucchini responding, and Eoin I think is coming in as well.
Yeah, you saw that on board.
Oh, Eoin stays out. I beg your pardon. It's
on board Watson. He was thinking about a move on Luke Mitchell as he came in, and that sort of meant he had to adjust for the chicane because he didn't have to overtake a car all of a sudden. He was thinking he had to leave more space than he actually did. As we see action in the pit lane, Quint gets going again ahead of Harry Smith then, and he rejoins. As you say, should be as Menno comes in as well. So there should be a pretty substantial gap in what is now 4th position behind Frank Hamming that he can times into, so he's about 3 seconds ahead of Rualt. So looks like Lucchini has been undercut then for net second in the race.
Yeah, that's gutting for Lucchini, missing that opportunity to stay in second place, and he could potentially find some lap time in the second stint. But Eoin has gone the longest out of the top drivers on the softs, but of course Watson just about 4 seconds down the road, still going. And then Hamming really wants to use his least amount of time on the hards as possible so he can push and push, knowing that it took so long for him to get an on-track overtake completed. So that is the logic he is using. He has a little bit of time on his own, and then he'll try and regain all that work with fresher tires. So Watson has pitted, so it's a logical 1-by-1 strategy for Netrex. We'll see how they get on. But Russo just behind Zabinski going long as well, so he'll get past him on the inside of the chicane, and he will now be blessed with a little bit of clean air with his teammate, the nearest driver to him. Kicking up dust there was Patrick Rosjak. He wants
look
to
at
take
Savily is that.
Oh, yeah,
Savily that sort of almost bumped into him as well. So I think there was a little bit of aggression from Tom Savily who avoids going into the back of Rose. I think he's being badly held up, actually. I was saying this is working out well, Tom, on the undercut here, but now he's losing time stuck behind Patrick Rozak, and that potentially could allow Mitchell Malm to close in again.
Exactly, yeah. This could be very disruptive to Satelli's strategy, having to deal with the driver that Rorschach knows he is genuinely battling for a position. He pitted a lap later, and it's worked out nicely for the solo act in the Parallax Volcano team. That is really frustrating for Satellite. But we are checking Harry Smith out here, so he has kept his position over his teammate and even off. Oh, what did you see there, Ed?
Cut across the grass because his pit box was the very first one, so he didn't have a lot of time to prepare, as it were. He had to get it turned in immediately, and that was a little bit risky, but it paid off as Harry Smith up the inside of Zabinski there, who's got no tyres left to defend with. Crucial for Smith then to get a car between himself and Luke Mitchell, but Mitchell fighting back the DRS. Is there going to be enough space left into turn 1 from the Hyperion? Yes, there is, as Luke Mitchell overcomes him and gets himself back into the top 7.
Yeah, very good stuff. So even off, and his Cavalier pit stop has given him 4th place. So he has also found the time on Russo. Oh, side by side here. This is getting very tasty indeed, with Satellite looking to get that place. He's got a mind. Oh, he's pitched it around a 180-degree spin, losing rear traction completely. Oh, that's a shame, but thankfully he was able to slow down. But yeah, the pressure from the Parallax car, he knew that DRS was coming and he would have had to defend, but yeah, the brake bias just let him down completely.
Yeah, Tom Savali looking more than a little bit miffed with Patrick Rozak there, but I think there he just got his braking wrong, because he tried to completely move around the outside, just locked the rears, didn't he? And it just went round on him. So as we see, that looks like not Lucchini, that must be Russo trying to attack Ivanov, I believe, for 4th position then. So Ivanov has still got to get his elbows out, even on the fresher tyres. Russo, with that DRS, his pace is such that he can't afford to get too comfy here and just settle into 4th place. Ivanov has got to defend a little bit here, because Russo may be a little exuberant, but he could launch himself up the inside down the straight if Ivanov isn't careful here. But Victor is a pretty cool customer, and he gets things under control pretty quickly here, as in the background Smith and Mitchell continue to duke it out for 6th position. Ruhl set the fastest lap of the race, by the way, as Ivanov set a purple first sector. That explains why he's pulled away from Russo a bit now. So Ruhl could now be a threat to Quint now that he's cleared Lucchini. So keep an eye, that 3-second gap, healthy at the moment, but if Quint starts to struggle on tyre wear later on, then I wouldn't be surprised to see Ruhl closing the gap in the final stages.
Yeah, he'll be pulling off the feat of winning 2 race 1s in a row for 2 different teams. That would be quite something. But here's Mitchell Malm. We discussed him in qualifying, that getting more points for Kings Racing will be imperative. He's now running on his own because his teammate Nichols is out of the race. But this is for 11th on Justin van der Smissen. Rualt again with a fastest lap, and a potential double overtake here, as Mulling also got a beautiful tow. And that's a shame for van der Smissen. He had 11th place, now it's gone. P13 is his lot. But Mitchell Malm, he's really gelling with this track, and he has a brilliant opportunity to nail some excellent points for Kings Racing.
Well, van der Smissen's one of the drivers who started on the hard, so he's really got no option but to sort of extend. And at this phase, once those on the conventional strategy started on the softs, pit to the hards, they've got much fresher tyres at this phase. So van der Smissen hasn't got an awful lot left to fight with, although 2.5 seconds to Savali, who definitely put his rear tyres through the oven a little bit with that mistake earlier. As we now look at Koenig, who's caught up to the back of Kiel-Hauswig. So, of course, Kiel-Hauswig has a pit or a set of the harder tyres, but Koenig on a different strategy. He is on the softer compound. He's been on them 2 laps, though, so Koenig could struggle a little bit with tyre wear near the end. But he's going to be a threat to Kiel-Hauswig in the immediate now. So Kiel-Hauswig, he's going to have to really struggle here to not just pass David De Vries in front of him, who's another one of those who's grown very long of having pit on lap 3 for another set of hard tyres. So it's not like he can go to the end. It's a tricky situation here for Kiel-Hauswig, because he's... Oh, here we go, diving up the inside for Koenig at the hairpin there, and plenty of space left by the 100 to 1. And now he's trying to do 2 moves in quick succession here, as you see van der Smissen pitting ahead of them.
Yeah, so that would be the other VMS on Enets of De Vries. So De Vries has to stay on the outside, blocking the path for Kiel-Hauswig. And
Scott tapping the back of Eoin.
Oh goodness, yeah, good spot. Yeah, that would have been risky for Scott there. He knows that there is an opportunity here. He could have done it again. So repeat, rinse and repeat there, and the bumping and running.
It's van der Smissen, so bad news for Kiel-Hauswig. He's not only got De Vries to deal with, but the other VMS of van der Smissen, who's overcut them, or at least he had until that moment. That's De Vries, sorry, coming back.
Vries,
So
yeah.
now he's got to fight against Van der Smissen. So it's still only one VMS. The situation hasn't changed. It's just a different VMS with much fresher soft tyres.
We know we saw the footage of De Vries pitting very early on, so he's yet to use the soft tyre. So he could have done his teammate the world of good there, even if it was a brief cameo with Van der Smissen ahead of Phil Hausvik. Robin Mulling, we just saw him briefly there in 11th place, trying to challenge, and he has overtaken Mitchell Naum. So that's a great pass from Mulling. Here we have a look at on the onboard of Luke Mitchell. He's been with Harry Smith practically the entire race. There's no separating them, but Smith has yet to yield that position properly. It's been close, but the Lunark has not succeeded in this crucial battle.
Yeah, and I was looking at the lead battle, by the way, between Quint and Ruel. So Ruel set a best lap of the race, 118.763. Quint, not only has he responded with a 118.730, which is even faster, but he's also extended the gap to 4.2 seconds. So Ruel did actually pit the lap before Quint, so he is on a lap holder tyre, 7 lap versus 6 laps at the moment. So actually Mike Quint is in the better position in terms of tyre wear potentially going forward here. As here comes Ivanov up the inside of Lucchini. Lucchini turns in, and Ivanov just has to get on the brakes as late as he can, but he hasn't lost too much momentum here. DRS open again, down into turn 1. He'll have the inside. He's got to hold on into turn 2 by going long here. Lucchini tries to hold it out, but unfortunately for him, the MS Performance has too much overlap, and that's Ivanov on the bottom step of the podium past the 2 Alpha Deltas there. So good racing from the reigning FSR Pro champion.
Absolutely, yeah, really good job for both of these drivers. And now Ivanov is in position to get a third colour of a result on his column. He has the gold, he's got the green, then he has another gold, and so on and so forth. It could be a bronze today in this race 1, so the sequence is at risk of coming to an end for MS Performance's number 44 car, but to get third place would be brilliant. And now swapping of positions here, Lucchini has let Russo by.
Yes, that is interesting. So potentially, let's see what the tyre life is between these two. Lucchini on 7 lap old tyres, Russo on 8 lap old tyres. So this isn't a tyre life differential situation. This is Russo is a bit more consistent and a little bit quicker at this phase of the race. They've decided to let him through to try and stay with Ivanov, as here comes Watson up the inside of Luke Mitchell. So Mitchell, far from making progress, he's now got another Netrex ahead of him, and Frank Hamming challenging him now for that 8th place.
Absolutely wonderful scenes here, just to go to show this race has really built up a fantastic recipe of situations. So yeah, it is disappointing, of course, for Lunark and their point of view. They really need these points, and knowing that Bradley Sellers out of the race, I think so. Yeah, the priority is now fully on Mitchell, and if he does manage to hang on to this position against Hamming, that will be a success to overcome that small disappointment, knowing that Netrex have beaten Mitchell as a pairing. But yeah, Hamming, he is a superstar at these strategies. He really builds himself up into these races, and if he can get himself into position, then yeah, he will be delighted. And the reverse grid draw coming, he is in a decent position to benefit.
Yeah, and let's have a word on Netrex, because remember, Multiforce GP 223 points, Netrex GP 231 points. As here comes Frank Hamming, then he's using the DRS to get up the inside of Mitchell. A little bit of side-on contact for the wheels going into the final chicane there, but unfortunately Luke Mitchell being shuffled back down the pack then as Frank Hamming gains another place. So this is good for HGP on a day where Alpha Delta are looking to secure big points here. They've got a car sort of either side of them essentially in the form of Ruralt, and then Hamming just behind the 2 Netrexes. But Netrex, similar story for them. Mike Quint winning at the moment, and Menacron looking good for P14, unless he can potentially challenge Savali in the closing stages. As we cut to Mike Quint, and he makes a rare tiny mistake there, gets a little bit too long on the brakes, into that second chicane there. But that won't lose him too much time. Still just under 4 seconds then, so he lost about two or three attempts then to Rot then in that sector. But no reason to panic so far. But with the gap in the Teams Championship being only 8 points between Netrex and Multiforce GP, it's absolutely critical that Smith and Watson limit the damage here. If Smith can maybe catch Lacini before the end and get into 5th, that could really make a big difference at the end of the season as well. And a similar story for Menno Klont. He's got to take advantage while his teammate is scoring maximum points to make hay while the sun shines, as it were, for Multiforce.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Teams Championship really matters to each and every team owner, and of course the drivers have lots of motivation to do well in it too. So yeah, the fact that Alpha Delta currently have the 4th and 5th ahead of Netrex's 6th and 7th, it will be a small gain compared to what we saw at the beginning of the stint, where they had the podium places 2nd and 3rd in their control, and Netrex were down in 5th and 7th, but now they are starting to show their quality as the race winds down. And if they can split the Alpha Deltas, as you say, Ed, with Harry Smith getting into 5th place, making it a 4 and 6, then yeah, that will it'll only minorly change the championship battle between those two teams.
Yeah, and I say that because on that last lap, Harry Smith was about, he said a 1:19.3 to Lucchini's 1:19.9, so it wasn't a great lap for Mirko Lucchini, which explains why they've let Russo through, who's just set a 1:19.1, 1.6 seconds down on Ivanov. So Herring is still getting DRS behind Watson, which will be a bit of a concern for Omari. You see Mike Quint set another fastest lap there, he's 1:18.6. And that's him just getting back the advantage he had on Ruot before he made that minor mistake there. Russo also set to personal best lap there, is 1:19.0 in his pursuit of Ivanov. But Ivanov is lapping 2/10 quicker still, even with that improvement from Russo. So MS Performance have got looking good for 3rd at the moment with Ivanov. And if it finishes like this with 6 laps to go, Quint is going to extend his lead over Ivanov in the driver's table to 34 points, because he'll gain 9 points on Victor Ivanov. So this is looking very, very good for Mike Quinn and Multiforce in both championships, to be honest.
Undoubtedly, yeah. The fact that Ivanov, he never let go of that championship lead by virtue of all his race 1 wins, and he was able to build them up steadily with those race 2 top 5s and top 10s. The absence has really dealt him a blow, as Quint will gain on him for another race at the minute. So yeah, it really goes to show the fact that Quint has been here each and every week has helped him immeasurably, having an entire race 1 win tally of an advantage at the moment. So yeah, Ivanov will be hoping for a little bit of a reprieve in race 2, depending on what numbers are drawn. Yeah, here we go. It is still so much to deal with 6 laps to go. Hamming pushing as hard as he can here against Omari Watson.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing here is if it stays like this in the teams table, Multiforce would gain another 8 points on Netrex GP. And remember, they were 8 behind already, so that would mean we would have equal in the lead for the team's championship here, as Daniel Scott is all over the back of Eoin Kilhausvik, who is on for another top 20 finish here. Might not be the points that I predicted, although we still got race 2 to come. But Daniel Scott looking to disappoint Ben Constantine yet again by removing his sole remaining driver from the top 20 here. But Eoin Kilhausvik is not going to make it easy for him whatsoever.
Probably not, but we'll see. Can Scott line up this pass using the chicane as a bit of a springboard, so he can perhaps get on the power a little bit later and then go full throttle into the DRS. So 5 laps to go as race leader. Quinn crosses the line. Scott will have to pick a side here. He goes for the inside into turns 8 and then 9. Well, good defense from Kilhausvik, and the hairpin could be tempting here for Scott to make a dash using that little bit of tarmac that he has available, but instead he'll try the full lock into the the traction zone, and he'll have another go of DRS. So here we have this opportunity.
Yeah, you saw Eoin Kilhausvik trying to just control the middle of the road there, but unfortunately DRS Scott's much closer this time. He's got the inside. They briefly touch wheels, but it's Scott that's got the line into the final chicane, and with those curves being so lethal as Kilhausvik, the rear tyres cry enough. And unfortunately, that's 100 to 1 down to 21st and second last of those still running. But and we saw Riboli earlier, by the way. He's just outside the points, but unfortunately he's behind Zabinski by 7.7 seconds, and Zabinski is on 10 lap old soft tyres, whereas Riboli is on 16 lap old harder tyres. So it's looking pretty unlikely for him to make up that ground unless something happens ahead of them. As we now look at Rozak, who's looking to spread the pain for Luke Mitchell, unfortunately. And Rozak, who had his battle earlier on, didn't he, with Tom Savali. Now he wants to play with Luke Mitchell, his new playmate, essentially. They're going to call him the Red Menace in a minute, because Rozak's not making many friends out on track this season, it seems.
I suppose not, but what matters to the Parallax team is that he can get these points, and he doesn't take any unenforced penalties for overzealous driving. At the moment, it is within the rules as far as I've seen. So Mitchell, he got himself back into the 119s that last lap, but he's lost a tenth of a second to Rozak on this lap, and they're almost to the thousandth of a second identical in sector 1. But definitely this slipstream boost will help Rozak out on the straights. But nevertheless, yeah, it's too difficult to get side by side from that far back.
And it must be said, Rozak with Balazbeki seemingly going AWOL from Imola and in this event as well. Rozak has got the team into 7th in the teams table all by himself on 54 points. They're a point ahead of Griffon going into this one. And with Philip Koenig outside the points, Rozak is looking good to extend that advantage there. And here we go. He's got the DRS. Is there anything that Luke Mitchell can do in response? No fuel mix, no special push to pass button available here. It's all down to the DRS, and Rozak even gets a way better exit from the chicane as Luke Mitchell gets a little bit crossed up once more. Hamming refusing to give up then in his pursuit of Omari Watson, but Watson very, very canny. We've seen him lose points due to a few errors early in the season. The spinning and the pit lane entry in Shanghai comes to mind, unfortunately, a few races ago. But Watson is very, very good in these types of situations where he's got a driver all over the back of him that is potentially a little bit faster. He's able to defend really, really well, not give those sorts of easy opportunities, essentially. So let's see if Watson can keep the force of nature that is Frank Hamming, who, as I said, always seems to get his man all, but he seemed to lose traction there. And that will give a little bit of a breather to Omari Watson once more.
Yeah, without a doubt. So the opportunity here for a straight 1v1 fight with Hamming against Watson. It's still going to be a case with the remaining 2 laps once they cross the line. Of course, Quint will be just crossing it now. There we go, perfect timing. So perhaps the temptation for Hamming is perhaps stay in the wake one more lap and then go for it at the end, so that Watson has no fight back. But unfortunately for everyone supporting Lunar, it's absence of Mitchell in the top 10 because Robin Mulling for Rookie Monsters has taken it away.
Yeah, Luke Mitchell's pace has really plummeted. I think, yeah, he set a 125 that last lap, and it's the same for his brother Scott Mitchell-Mom, who's now just behind, 2.4 seconds behind him on the road. He set a 120.6, whereas Mulling was in the 119.7s, Rozak 119.8s. Yeah, that really is quite illustrative of the tyre wear coming into effect at this late phase of the race. Mitchell and Mitchell-Mom have both got very good qualifying setups, but come the race, it's just not enough to hold on the hards for the final couple of laps of this stint. They've been on those tyres 18 and 16 laps respectively. Yeah, so especially for Lunart, they've got very heavy tyre wear, it seems, because Bradley Sellers already out the race, sadly, but he didn't even make it to the first pit stop, I don't think. So, as you say, it's difficult for them, as Ivanov has somehow caught up to that a lapped car he's trying to lap here, or is that Ruel?
That's Ruel.
Ruel's made a mistake then, because he's lost a couple of seconds to Quint then. He's had a bad his whole lap has been very slow. Is he running out of fuel, or are his tyres crying enough here?
the mystery. I hope we can get a little bit more proof if there is a genuine fuel issue or a tire wear becoming too difficult for Ruwalds. But yeah, the Super League champion of 2021 taking on one of our hotshot drivers in the third division here of Formula Sprint 1. They're ready and waiting to see what will happen next. So this is probably the hardest point to make a pass in this circuit with DRS enabled. So ideally for Eoin, he'll get him on the casino straight and then make it absolutely certain at the Wall of Champions. So Ruwald here doing a commendable job with his new team. Oh, a bit of contact there. Eoin trying to force his way into position. The Alpha Deltas will be watching with interest, but here we go. Race leader already on his final lap. Here we are with Eoin. He's going to pick the inside line. He has the DRS to himself. Got to break that extra bit later. And he's done it. So it's P2, and actually it's the final lap already. Quint is the winner.
Oh,
so I've lost track.
Look at this.
Oh, stop inside to the line. Photo finish.
Oh.
Eoin gets it.
Wow, absolutely crucial move for Eoin to limit the damage in the Drivers' Championship then for Mike Quinn. You've got to say, a superbly executed strategy there. And a late mistake for Stefan Ruot means that he is overcome for that second spot on the podium then, as the rest of the finishers come through now. And that is bad news for HGP, but very, very good news, of course, for Eoin and MS Performance now, because that means they only lose 4 points rather than 5 points rather than the full 9 that I predicted earlier, as his Abler is going to fall just short, I think, of Van der Smissen as they cross the line almost together, but the DRS comes in just too late for him and he'll have to settle for 18th position.
Yeah, it came down to 0.06 of a second there. Very, very narrow. So yeah, I admit I lost track of that final lap. I thought I had it in mind, but unfortunately, yeah, I did lose the full track. So Quint deservingly declared the winner today. Brilliant drive. So I have to give him his props there with proper enthusiasm. And 22nd and last on the road is David de Vries. So great drive for him just to overcome that two-stop strategy. I'm sure he didn't mean to do it, but whatever happened happened. At least he made it to the end.
And that's Mike Quint's first ever Race 1 victory in FS1, as I understand it, because his last 2 wins were all in Race 2s. So yeah, that's a real statement of intent then, and he breaks the number 44 MS Performance's streak of winning Race 1s, and in some style too. So it's a number 11 now that leads that championship by a pretty fearsome margin. I believe it's 30 points now, his gap over Eoin.
We have a replay, I think, in the pocket. So if it is ready in just a moment, we can have a look before we summarize our Race 1 results. And it is of Stefan Ruwald into the turn 3 and 4 chicane. He's coming. So, he's just misjudged his corner placement completely. So he had his left side tires already on the grass before the right-hander had to be taken. So that was enough to bring Eoin into his range, and that triggered the 1v1 fight that we saw. So yeah, small loss of concentration there, and it did result in a drop of second place into third for Ruwald. So that's a shame.
That's frustrating, isn't it? Because that's a flat corner, isn't it, Eoin? Yeah. So that was literally just fatigue, as you say, creeping in right at the end. And you can't afford to get comfortable, as I said, because a tiny mistake like that can decide championships effectively. So Ruwald, of course, who knows how to win championships, being overcome impressive by the very, very impressive Victor Eoin, who although it wasn't a win in Race 1 this time, certainly he reminded everyone of what he's made of and why he should be feared in this championship.
Absolutely. So here we go. Our results are as follows. Mike Quint, the winner from pole position. He only lost the lead for a few laps, and then once he reclaimed it, that was definitive. He never let it go. Even off P2 with Ruwald third, Russo and Lucchini together 4th and 5th, Smith and Watson 6th and 7th for Netrex, Hamming, Roshak and Mulling. Excellent result for Mulling in P10. the remainder of the points, we have the brothers Luke and Scott, 11th and 12th. Tom Satterley there, P13. So MS Performance will be chuffed with that to get their second car running smoothly. Menno Clont, we didn't get to talk about him very much at all, but the P14 for the number 14 there, Matthew Sabinski did a stellar job for Hyperion there in 15th. Then Raboli from his pit lane start got 16th. Van der Smissen led VMS Sonetets in 17th. Jonas Abler, Philip Koenig, and Daniel Scott are the drivers in the top 20. Owen Phil Hausvik started strongly, but it faded just a little bit at the end. But P21, not too bad. David De Vries, the final classified driver there in P22. We did not get to see Bradley Sellers, Maciej Hille, Jack Nichols, Lucas Tylene, Sandra Van Sand, or Matthews Dabrowski reached the checkered flag. They DNF'd various stages of the race. And there we go, Ed. So we're ready now for our quick break, but stay tuned because it's a very, very important race 2 before the spring break is coming very soon. So stay tuned for that. Hello, everybody. You're very welcome back to FS1 and our upcoming sprint race, 23 laps in all. I'm Eoin Harmon, and alongside me in commentary, it's Ed Hunter, and of course, broadcast director Remco Zeeuw. So, Ed, we have our new pole sitter and reverse grid draw.
Yep, so it's come for the man who finished P8 in race 1, and that was, of course, Frank Hamming, who fell just short of Omari Watson in the end, and the two net Rexes there. But now, you got to say, this is looking good not only for Hamming, but for net Rex as well. And it's a very, very similar situation, it must be said, to last year's reverse grid race here at Montreal, where Frank Hamming was also on pole position. On that occasion, he one-stopped on the soft tyres, and Netrex ended up, I believe, getting a 1-2 with Martin and Watson. So this time, Watson will be starting second, Smith in third. So it'll be interesting to see if Watson can do one better than last year. Because I remember Martin saying that if he'd had an opportunity, if he didn't have Jack Mayer breathing down Omari's neck, he might have. He was thinking about swapping positions and gifting the win to Omari, who was very helpful to him in race 1, just before, of course, on that occasion. Obviously Smith and Watson have a similarly very, very good relationship, and they're able to work very, very effectively together, as indeed were the Alpha Deltas. So they could still be a threat fighting their way through from just behind them as well.
Yeah, so Hamming gets a chance to go back-to-back race 2 poles after last season as well.
And he's on a race 2 podium streak, isn't he? He was on the podium both races in San Marino, and he's on the podium race 1 in China, and he just missed out in 4th race 2 in China. So yeah, he's definitely in a bit of a purple patch in the moment, Hamming. He either finishes 3rd or 4th, doesn't he? Apart from the race we just saw where he finished 8th, of course.
Yeah, so his lucky number was 6 last year, so it came up handy for him. So it's number 8 this time. So he has the chance to learn from last year and try and better the 4th place he got as a result. So he'll be determined not to put himself in a difficult position this year. So he'll have that opportunity to battle for the win in race 2. HGP really motoring in this campaign after Rual and his super result of P3. Of course, he could have held on to second, but that one mistake cost him. And now we have the summoning call from Race Control. They want to see our drivers fill out the grid. So it should be all in the correct order now. So Watson and Smith, as you say, Ed, have the chance themselves of going 1 and 2 again. So they're very excited with this chance to be on the front row on the even side, and then the odd side with Harry Smith right there in P3, with Lucchini and Russo right beside them as well. That's absolutely incredible to have HGP 1st and 6th, and then the 2 teammate pairings in that sandwich.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well, the situation in the Teams Championship is very, very interesting indeed, because Multiforce, with that win for Mike Quint and the 14th for Menno Klont, that means they're equal on points with Netrex, 250 for both teams, with Multiforce GP ahead with their 3 wins, of course. So this is now really, really vital. Netrex have got a brilliant chance to strike back, but we know how quick Mike Quint and Ivanov are going to be starting 7th and 8th. If they can make their way through the pack fairly swiftly, they could be a threat, but it'll be interesting to see what tyres they all start on as Frank Hamming leads away the formation lap.
Yeah, there's no mistaking that yellow helmet. Or the green helmet, Jesus. My bad.
It seems there is mistaking it.
Yeah, I messed up completely there. So number 73, Hamming on reverse grid pole. Watson and Smith together, 2nd and 3rd, and Lucchini P4. Russo, Rualt, Ivanov, and Quint. They're willing to try again and get the victory, 5th through 8th. Roshak and Mulling, 9th and 10th, staying as they were in race 1. Then the brothers Mitchell and Mitchell Malm there, Luke and Scott, 11th and 12th. Tom Satterley, Menno Klont together there in 13th to 14th, so more MS versus Multiforce action. Zubinski, P15, just ahead of Massimiliano Raboli, who will get a genuine opportunity to lead from the grid as opposed to pit lane. Van der Smissen and Abler together, 17th and 18th. Koenig and Scott, 19th and 20th. Then we have the drivers 21st through 27th or 28th, or unless something's dropped out. So Phil Hauswick from De Vries, Sellers and Nichols, Tylene and Van Sand together, and then Dabrowski down in 27th. So we do have one fewer driver compared to race 1, so I'll have to remember who that dropout may be. So, yeah, any answers in the chat after I messed up the helmet colour?
I'll look back through the field in sort of reverse order to try and figure out who it was. But yeah, it wasn't Koenig, is it? No, Koenig's on the grid. Both the pixelates are still there. So yeah, my only other thought is it might be one of the not the Hyperions. Okay, so I'm sort of in the dark here, unless it's one of the rookie monsters. No, we still got both Robin and Daniel. So did Tom Savily get annoyed and quit? No, he's still there.
He's here.
Yeah, okay, well, there's no time to speculate.
Hiller, Maciej Hiller.
It is Maciej Hiller, yes. Yeah. So that's
okay,
a shame.
So we figured that out just in time, so I redeemed myself.
There we go. So Luca finally in 25th. It's going to be difficult for him. Look at out of position for Frank Cameron.
Oh yeah, so there we go. Consequences of a missing driver has messed up the formation at the back of the grid, but race control, if they're satisfied, they will conduct the lights sequence, and yeah, it is looking good. But Hamming in the aggressive stance leads the way. Amari Watson will do his best to try and poke a gap one way or the other, but he's blocking his teammate. If anything, Roos or Lucchini may have gone a little too hot. He's gathered it all very well, and that may have hampered Netrex's plans, to be honest. So that's one small dash for them, but they can, of course, recover it.
Yeah, and Lucchini, the second race in a row, makes an excellent getaway off the line to get ahead of Harry Smith. Ivanov also did likewise to jump Stefan Ruel again immediately after Ruel had the indignity of being passed by Ivanov on the final lap. It's happened again now on the first lap, and Ivanov now is already sizing up Russo. He is absolutely on fire on this first lap.
So we'll discover for absolute certain what tyre strategies people are on. I think after registering the split time, even off on softs. So he's willing to take the ultimate gamble that did not work for Hamming from his pole last year. So there we go. There's the summary. We've Jonas Abler also on the softs, but I am mostly correct that drivers are willing to go no stop in this sprint race. So Ivanov has to make moves one after the other, or else that strategy will fail.
Yeah, and we've seen how difficult it is to pull this off. Remember the likes of Philip Koenig tried it in Shanghai and ultimately came to grief. I think Ivanov ended up spinning actually while battling with Harry Smith. And the problem is also he's going to be a little bit later on the brakes than the likes of Russo ahead of him. And that means he could accidentally bump into the back of Russo if he's not careful, if he gets a little bit too close trying to challenge through some of these corners. As we see yellow in the first sector, we also know, as we see Abler making a move on Menno Klont there through 4 and 5, we saw Jack Nichols jump the start, and it will have to serve, I believe, a drive-through penalty for that one, unfortunately for him. So after failing to finish race 1, goes from bad to worse for the Englishman. Oh, did he just bump the wall as well?
Oh, wow, yeah. So this sprint race is really bringing out the aggressive side in the drivers. And Ivanov, he's got to break the latest here without the DRS benefit to come. So yeah, he's made the statement there on Federico Russo, and he has P5, but it's far from mission complete here for the second place driver in our championship. And the counter-attack is coming with Stefan Ruwalt trying to gain a double boost of slipstream. He's got to back out of that one. Thank goodness he did.
I was just looking in the foreground at Harry Smith attacking Lucchini and having to back out, but he's not giving up yet. He's going to try and get that third place back, then up the inside into turn 1, forces Lucchini wide, but Lucchini keeps his foot in and is able to hold Harry Smith at bay then. But Smith knows Ivanov is coming now that he's cleared Russo. He almost fed Russo into Rualt there, yeah, it looks like Mike Quinn has actually been able to jump Rualt as a result of all the confusion there. So Mike Quinn, we can't count him out as well, even though he's on the hard tyres. Ivanov, we know, will almost certainly have to stop again, especially the way he's abusing these softs. He's certainly not going to try and do the Loic Mounier strategy of just staying out and then watching them drop off a cliff with 2 laps to go. So he's going to try and Well, we saw Watson do it at Melbourne as well earlier this season. He got the softs to last all the way to the end in race 2 as well. So it is possible, but you do have to be oh so careful, especially in the closing stages. As we look now at Luke Mitchell all over the back of Robin Mulligan. He's got his brother for company as he lights up the rear tyres on exit.
Yeah, so Mitchell will want to make sure these tyres make it to the end this time, knowing how his ideal results began to fritter away. Smith very close again.
Second lap, he's tried that now. And look, Watson has been matching Hamming's time. That last lap, they set identical lap times to 3 decimal places. This time, Hamming is 2 tenths quicker, though.
Right you are, but with the benefit of having those soft tyres in Sector 1, Eoin has set the fastest lap of a 119.3. But he has to make one move stick very quickly because, of course, overtaking both Licini and Smith, that's a tall order for anybody here in FS1. So if he is still in their wake in the next 3 or 4 laps, then yeah, I would be very worried for him. But Watson, though, he's doing absolutely everything he can to deny Hamming a straight run to the victory. We're going to check out Tom Satterley here on the replay.
Yeah,
he will
Tom
be battling
in the race. So let's see how it happened, Eoin.
Oh no!
Oh no! And that's how Menno got caught up in that and lost a few places as well as Tom desperately tries to get out of the way. But I imagine we're about to see him press escape and retire then after that, because it's just like it's been another horrible day for Satterley. He certainly had the pace, but he's not had much luck go his way this season as we see the battle continue. Smith now really starting to get desperate on the back. In fact, he's been overcome by Eoin. I think he might have had to miss that chicane there.
Yeah, we may have just missed that as the replay transitioned back to live action now. So just about. It is Eoin gaining that position at last. So yeah, he was just out of camera shot there. Eoin got the position, and now he has Licini in a 1v1 battle coming pretty soon, I'm sure. Maybe not in this sector, but maybe the final sector he can make a move. But Smith's job now is to try and keep Russo at bay for the sake of the team's championship. Mike Quint, though, has not really had much to really make an impact in this race. So he's got Rualt behind him. So the job here for Quint is to just stay patient and see what comes to him. Yeah, he's going to try and use the corner exit to his advantage.
Yeah, there was some good racecraft to get past Rualt earlier, but now he's sort of stuck in the DRS train. As it's clear Russo is a sort of struggling to keep the tyres alive at some point, but the straight line speed from the DRS is keeping the Alpha Delta in play here, and Mike Quint has sort of just got to be careful here because he knows there could be a stop going for Eoin, so it's more just a case of don't trip up here and make sure he doesn't lose a load of points in the championship by dropping out the points in race 2.
Yeah, that's the priority without a doubt. Just get the strong points on the board and get into the spring break in a very strong position. So we're now seeing what Rualt can do against the championship leader with Rorschach behind there in P9. So they're still in this formation at the moment on equal tyres. Let's see if there is any movement there as Russo versus Smith. That will be the catalyst for any movements here. If they split up, then there's a gap that Quint could potentially get involved with. And yeah, speaking of which, he has the inside line into the hairpin, and Russo may have to yield here because there's nowhere else for him to go.
Yeah, there we go. He controlled that inside line there. Now the only danger is here, Mike Quint is going to be potentially a bit vulnerable down the straight here because there's a long gap to Harry Smith in front of him now. So he tries to break the toe. Both the cars get DRS, of course. It looks like Mike Quint has done just enough and holds on to the inside as they go into that final chicane and avoid the wall of champions on the outside then. And now Rualt fancies a run side by side then with Federico Russo. Russo has just been shuffled back through the pack, unfortunately, so he's not been able to hold on like we saw in race 1 at all. Just enough space, but no more than absolutely necessary as Russo just couldn't disappear quickly enough there.
Yeah, I certainly sigh some relief that there wasn't a bigger contact And that
front wing stayed
end
on.
plate stayed. Yeah, that front wing end plate hit the tire, but did not become excessively damaged. Maybe there could be a small bit of wear on it, but
Even
Rorschach.
was past Lucchini for third as well.
Oh,
as
yes,
Rorschach
huge.
cutting across.
Yeah, we know Rorschach. He wants to get the gloves out and fight for everything potentially available to him. But yeah, as Eoin, he needs to make this one-stop strategy under usual circumstances. I'd imagine he does have to pit because those tires last about 15 to 17 laps, ideally, for those best drivers.
Pace has dropped off, Eoin. Look, 119.3 last lap. That's pretty much what Hamming is doing. Watson is setting 119.2s though, so he's starting to claw back to the rear of Frank Hamming's HGP then. So those two, they were locked together in race 1. It's repeating in race 2. Is look at this. That's Rock going around the outside this time of Russo into turn 1 and having to defend again because he was ahead. And here we go. He's got the inside then as they go down towards 3 and 4 then, and just cuts his way back ahead. So Roll a bit vulnerable because he's dropped off of DRS from Mike Quinn.
Yeah, so really good move there for Rualt to stay competitive and clean there through the first 4 corners. And he has the chance to fight with Mike Quint again. So we'll see how they get on. But yeah, Rorschach, if he knows Russo is struggling, then he could use this opportunity to attack with Luke Mitchell. We won't be able to see him on this onboard camera, but he is close. And De Vries gets the fastest lap at the very back of our grid in 25th. He's just recently changed onto new softs, so that doesn't do any harm really. So let's see if he can make this early strategy work from this time.
Going to be tricky for him, the VMS Sun and its driver back there, because he's had to compromise his race so heavily. As we see actually even offsets a 118.9, half a second quicker than Watson ahead of him. More than 6 tenths quicker than Hamming as well in the lead. So he's given up the preservation strategy pretty quickly, and now it's a freeway fight on track at least for the overall win. And yeah, Eoin, I know he's very, very good at time management as well as pace. Don't let the lap times deceive you, but even he, I think, might struggle to get these softs to the end the way he's driving them right now.
Well, that would be a feat of exceptional preservation for Eoin if he can keep the softs in good racing condition for the full 23 sprint laps of this race. So yeah, we'll see if he does fight as hard as possible to get the clean air up front, and then maybe try and go head to head with Hamming perhaps. But his job now is Amari Watson, and he knows he's one of the best drivers around the Montreal streets.
Watson lifted off the throttle there, almost certainly.
Yeah, he realized, it's probably not worth the extra exertion to make a defense there against the driver on the alternate strategy. So, yeah, it is a case.
We assume he's not going to the end, but Loic Mounier did prove us wrong last year, of course, in this race. So, but the thing is, Watson is usually the tire whisperer in race 2s, isn't he? He's able to get them softs to last much longer than expected. So, if anyone was going to pull it off, it'd be him. So, Eoin, that felt more like a gamble to try and put some clear air between himself and Mike Quint before he pits, and then maybe breeze back through near the end. So it is tricky because we saw Hamming, he pulled what was it, like an 8-second lead before pitting last year, and then came out sort of in 8th or 9th, and then ended up finishing 4th as he got caught up to the back of the DRS train quite quickly, but had a bit more difficulty passing. Eoin has been able to pass them quite quickly, which is certainly a positive sign from his point of view. Mainly because he's the only one doing the gamble as well, it must be said. But we'll have to see then as he continues. He was a tenth quicker than Hamming the previous lap, but now he's back in clear air. It should be plain sailing, catching up to the back of the HGP as we watch Harry Smith now having another go. This is the 50th time we've seen him attempt this, it feels like. Only on lap 10. But it feels like Harry Smith has spent a lifetime stuck behind that Alpha Delta.
Yeah, I suppose the experience of some other drivers like Hamming in race one, it took him a long time to make his first pass, but when he got it, he really
No, that was
started to.
Russo, sorry. It was Lucchini now that he's
Yeah,
stuck behind.
sure.
Yeah, I'm getting the two mixed up. The two
Sure.
Italians and the Alpha Deltas mixed up.
Yeah, Russo did eventually get the better of his teammate in race one as they swapped places, but yeah, it was Lucchini who was quicker early doors. But now the pressure is definitely on for Lucchini, because if he loses the position to Smith, then Netrex will have the supreme victory. They'll get both cars ahead of the Alpha Deltas, meaning they're guaranteed a sizable boost in their team's championship battle. Evanoff starting to reel in, Hamming just a little bit now, so you'll have a shot of DRS coming up now, and then just onto the start finish straight as well. So you got the double hit of DRS. So right now he should be he's 3/10 or so ahead of Hamming on this individual lap, and the back straight into the start finish straight is going to help his cause. He's getting very close now, Ed.
Yeah, you can tell Watson has dropped off the back completely now. 1.1 seconds behind. You can tell seeing even a breeze by him has been just a tiny bit demoralizing, and Lucchini has now caught him as well, which is certainly not helpful for Harry Smith, because he would hope Lucchini would lose DRS from the back of Watson and he'd be able to get through, surely. It's not played out that way so far, but Netrex still holding on to third and fifth at the present moment, even if Ivanov is able to magically stop his tyres from wearing, which I somehow doubt he's able to do. Then this wouldn't be the worst result for Netrex in the team's table at the moment, with them still ahead of both the Malta forces, with Mike Quint yet to make much progress on Harry Smith. We're nearly halfway through the race now, aren't we? Over halfway through, I should say.
Yeah, we're past the 50% mark, and Ivanov's first opportunity to grab the race lead here in the sprint. It's coming very, very soon, with Hamming picking the middle of the road to block now. Then he'll merge to the inside, so trying to break the toe. Ivanov has to swing it back around the outside. He could just back off for a split second and then go with everything he's got. So Hamming will lead as lap 13 begins, but Ivanov has not been able to drag his MS performance into the lead with pure might on the straights. So his best bet before those soft tires start to lose their luster is to make a move perhaps next time by.
And I think maybe that's begun already, because he's looking just a little bit less confident than he did before Ivanov when he breezed past Lucchini and Watson and Smith. He's looking just a little bit more like he's struggling a bit on some of his exits more than he was before. Hamming, of course, still under a lot of pressure, so certainly no reason to abandon ship and pit just yet if he thinks he can build enough of a gap to go out into. It depends what MS Performance's the strategy is here. But yeah, it's interesting to look at Ivanov, the way he's playing this at the moment. His exit here from the hairpin is so much wider than everyone else's. He's able to just get on the power of that a little bit earlier, or at least he was a few laps ago. And look at the gap that Hamming's able to extend that a little bit more, and that's preventing any attacks from Ivanov at this stage. So I wonder if we're about to see either some preservation from Ivanov on those tyres, or if he's about to dive into the pits before too long. Because if he's pitting, he's got to do it soon. Otherwise, there's no point in doing so.
Yeah, 100% agreed. He has to pick his strategy from right now and stick to it. With 10 to go, it is Frank Hamming still leading after his number P8 turned into the reverse grid pole position. He has held on to that ever since. And Watson, at the moment, the other driver on the identical compound, currently P3. He'll be hoping to see Ivanov make his choice to pit and go on to the hards to the finish, so he can have second place back. Remco Lucchini currently fourth, and Smith is the driver P5, and our race one winner Mike Quint sixth. So yeah, if the data there from the likes of Philip Koenig got the new fastest lap on softs, so those 118, perhaps one early 119s will be the target, as Ivanov shows a little bit of wear with the rear tires sliding on him.
Yeah, and remember, Jonas Abler is on the same strategy. He was lapping 119.4, so actually a tenth quicker than Ivanov. But here we go, DRS open. He pulls late to the outside here and has to back out there. So Frank Hamming holds his nerve, holds his line, and forces Ivanov to back off and try and regroup for a second attempt then. Watson gets closer and closer to clawing back into DRS range the more these two fight as well. So this is getting very, very tense and quite interesting. I would have expected Ivanov to breeze through, but Frank Hamming determined not to let that happen. And we are starting to see the overlap now between the hards and the soft tyres now that the softs are wearing.
Yeah, we'll see if Licini...
120.1 for Ivanov that last lap. 3 tenths slower than Hamming.
Not ideal whatsoever, and I think this is Sandro Van Sand's exit from the race. He's into turn 2 now. The rear gave up on him completely, and unfortunately, he couldn't catch the mistake, and he ploughed into the barrier. I suppose he felt there was no recovering from that, so he unfortunately brings 100 to 1's number 91 to a halt. So it just leaves Phil Hausvig on his own.
Yeah, that's a shame. Sandro Van Sand's not had the best finishing record so far this season, has he? I think he's only finished once at, I think it was Suzuka in race 2 where he finished 23rd. So it's shown some pace on occasions, but yeah, he just couldn't slow down the car in time. And when he lost it, he was basically a passenger there through turn 2. That's a painful accident to watch, really, because you never like to see someone exit in the race like that on their own, or even with anyone else for that matter either. But yeah, Ivanov, the DRS continued to help out here and keep him in play. He's stabilized a bit, 2 tenths quicker, I think, than Hamming on this previous lap. And they are starting to pull back away from Watson. I think Ivanov is going to try and stretch to the end here and hope that he can hold off Watson once these softs fall off the cliff.
Yeah, Hamming, he'll be very settled with himself thus far. He's done everything correct that he needs to do. Ivanov has not been able to fully respond the way he really needed to respond. He's given it his very best shot, and with the gap on Watson, it's certainly impressive that Hamming has pulled away in one sense, and on the other sense, Ivanov has done well to overtake as many cars as he has, but this final obstacle is proving just that little bit too tricky. So the tires gave up around this range in the feature race, so if he's got the conservation plan going, then yeah, he could potentially hang on for a little bit longer.
Yeah, Ruralt just trying to attack Mike Quint from around the outside, but that was always pretty unlikely to work. Hamming actually sets a purple middle sector, so he's responded brilliantly to the pressure from Ivanov as Harry Smith goes a little bit wide through turn 2, which is not ideal for him. But yes, if Frank Hamming can hold on to this one, it would be his first win in FS1 since Brazil 2022 race 2, which was his last win 2 years ago, of course. So that would be a big deal for him on a personal level.
Wow, yeah, that's a long time ago.
Not quite as long as Menno had to wait last time out, but
yes.
It would still be a great feel-good story for him. And great for HTP, of course.
Yeah, without a doubt. So the job will be to finally get that long-awaited victory.
Oh, and speaking of HTP, here comes Ruralt to the outside. Not a great run for Mike Quint.
A little bit catchy for him there, but he's held on thus far. But any more distractions and the DRS advantage will be lost to Harry Smith there in P5. So here comes Ruralt on the inside into the final chicane. And there we go, Ruralt is ahead. That's the class of Ruralt, getting his pass made when it mattered most. But Quint wiggling, trying to get some energy into the tires and counter-attacking into the inside of one, then the outside of 2.
That was, I don't think he was trying to get energy into the tires. I think he was trying to gesticulate with his car at Stefan Ruralt, because he's like, why are we fighting? Because this just hurts us and drops us back towards Russo rather than behind Smith, where we were fighting before. So I think I can see where Mike Quint's coming from, but every position's important here. As Ivanov has started to regroup here. Perhaps he's left just enough life in his tires for a final assault. He was just a few hundredths per second quicker than Hamming on that previous lap, of course. It's only so quickly you can go when you've got another car ahead of you for most of the lap. But he's going to try and set up an overtake here down the back straight with the DRS. And Hamming has to be wary, has to break the slipstream as much as he can here.
Without a doubt, and he's done a commendable job as of right now. Eoin won't be able to mimic what his substitute from 2 weeks ago was able to achieve there on Mike Quint. Here's his last chance as the next lap begins, lap 19. So that's 5 to go. And it's still no success for the Bulgarian here, trying everything he possibly can to overtake the HGP. And Mitchell here, he's trying his best to get redemption here against Rozak.
Yeah, Luke Mitchell trying to get another top 10 finish under his belt. Of course, Rozak goes wide and off grass there. And just as you say, redemption there, Rozak gifts him a free position there as long as he slots in behind, and yes, he does. So good news for Luke Mitchell. That's Lunak back into P9, which is exactly what they needed, with Bradley Sellers down in 18th, just behind Zabinski, fighting just outside the points, of course. Menacont currently holding on to the final point as Rozak. That was a bit of a awkward dive around the outside that was unlikely to go in his favor, but Luke Mitchell now has maybe got enough life in these hard tyres to challenge Russo for 8th in these final stages, as again Hamming has to try and crisscross across the track to break the toe, force Viktor Ivanov to sort of travel where he doesn't want to on track, essentially, because then it makes the overtake a little harder if he's not exactly where he wants him.
Yeah, so the strategy for Hamming, to make sure Ivanov can't have it all his own way. So we're down to 4 to go, and Hamming still hangs onto that lead. His teammate for the day and potentially longer into the season, Ruald, he's still trying his very best to make another gain after overtaking Mike Quint. Harry Smith, though, he will be very pleased with this P5 if he can indeed hold on to it, with his teammates still fighting away for that spot on the podium. That will be certainly a great success after second place here in race 2 last season.
Yeah, some very, very good defensive drives from all of the top 6, essentially, apart from Ivanov, of course, who's mainly been attacking in this race on those softs. But even now with the tyre preservation, you can tell some of his corner exits here, he's trying to make sure he's not abusing those rear tyres as much, just to make sure he can hang on at the end here. The DRS is certainly helping, but it won't do all the work for him. He's got to set up the move if he wants to get past Hamming, and I think he knows the longer he's stuck behind, the better Hamming's chances are of just keeping him behind. And it'll be interesting if we get to the next lap or so, because that's when I think the softs might really drop off, and we might start to see Watson close the gap to Eoin. We might see a huge train from 2nd down to about 7th or so.
Yeah, you can't take your eyes off the road for just a second in this battle for the podium spot. It's on the line between 5 contenders, and only one spot is open as of right now, thanks to Ivanov dragging these tyres an extended distance into this race. As of right now, he has committed to going no stopper like everyone else on the hards, so he hasn't been reeled in whatsoever by anybody in this train. Ideally there, Federico Russo just in the background. He'll have to just probably stabilize the lap times, stay well clear of Rozak and Mitchell for that final spot in the top 10. So Rozak up to 9th again, so Mitchell may have lost out in the end, so that's a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, a reminder, if it finishes like this with Ivanov still tucked up right behind Frank Hamming, if it finishes like this with Mike Quint in 7th, Viktor Ivanov in 2nd, and Ivanov would gain back 8 points on Mike Quint. So that would mean the gap in the championship would go from 30 points to 22 points. So that would mean over the course of these 2 races, Ivanov will have actually gained 3 points compared to where he started 25 points down.
Yeah, that's pretty good going. He's definitely made an impression here on Quint in race 2. So this penultimate lap coming up now. The endings to our most recent race 2s back in Shanghai and of course at Imola have been as good as you could possibly have wished for. So even off, if he's going to make the streak last spring break, he's got to take the lead. Ed has spotted something. What did you see?
It's Jonas Abler crashing out of the race. He was the other one who gambled on the soft. So that shows you the job that Ivanov is doing. So he was 2 tenths slower in the first sector, but he caught back in the middle there, another 2 tenths on Frank Cammy there. So the straight line speed is really keeping him in play, but through the corners, he just has to hang on at this point. But that mistake from Abler crashing out, that really opens up the points to the lower order. Luca Filan is just 2 tenths away from stealing it at the final point from Bradley Sellers at the moment. Of course, it puts Menno back up to 13th, so good news for Moldavos.
It is, but last lap, here we go. Ivanov, has he put enough saving into his performance here to win a race 2 for the first time in 2024 after his 5 out of 6 winning streak in race 1s? And then he's been able to pick up points everywhere else. So he's got the podium in race 1, the P2 to back him up here. So he will get points back on Quint if this lasts. But Hamming to get the victory here that he missed out on last season. It's just half a minute away or so. Is Ivanov able to pick up any sudden movements here at the moment, Ed? I think Hamming has it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ivanov, as amazing a job as he's done to keep these soft tires alive, I think it's just too tall an order. By the time he caught Hamming, he'd used the best of them, and he's been able to keep him in reach, but Hamming has responded brilliantly to the pressure applied to him. Mike Quint is going to have one last-ditch effort at trying to steal 6th place off of Rualt, but Hamming, it's going to be victory for him, the first victory for HGP this season in also a long, long time.
Yeah, the wait is over. Frank Hamming, it won't be taken away this time. He wins race 2 and gets another new name into the record books for 2024. Brilliant drive from him, using his reverse grid pole to full effect. And Victor Ivanov gets a race 2 podium. So a P2 and a P2, which is a direct reply to what Mike Quint did in San Marino. So that was well done. And now Tylee trying to get KKR 2 points, and he's almost got it. But that's a great hold for Bradley Sellers, and he gets to see the checkered flag in fine style in this race to make up for race 1. And really brave driving from Sellers there.
Yeah, and heartbreak for Riboli, because he was running in the points too just before that final lap and had to go into the pits to retire at the start of the final lap there. So that was a big shame. I think he was about 12th or 13th at that time. So after dropping in the last minute, I think Riboli did a really, really strong job there, actually.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what he did.
Oh,
and
he lost the front wing.
The explanation. He's lost the front wing.
And the steering's bent as well.
Yeah.
Huge impact there. So it must have happened just before turn 1, I think.
It could have been the World Champions even. And most drivers were absolutely spotless around it. Oh, and that is Abler spun around as well.
So that's what happened to Abler on those soft tires there. He must have dropped it on his own. Let's see a replay of this. So that's Menno just behind him. There is his teammate. He's lost his front wing. He gets too far over the curb. Oh, and it's all on his own. And he clearly just put the rears on those softs through too much punishment, and they just refused to cooperate at that point. If they'd only held up a lap longer, we could have had 2 Pixelate cars in the points. Instead, they come away with nothing from race 2, which is a big shame for them.
An extreme shame to have lost out, but Frank Hamming, he can pull out the donuts, and Menno, I think, has joined in. But it is someone else's turn this time. Menno will have to try again in Spain in a month's time. But there we go. Congratulations to Frank Hamming and HGP Motorsport. Their time has arrived, and that green helmet, I will emphasize green helmet, not yellow, has gotten the job done. Victor Ivanov, P2 and P2. That's a really strong weekend for him to get a combined new record best result as opposed to first and a top 5 or 6. Omari Watson on the podium again for NetRex. He is really strong around here, and he made sure that no one was getting by him, not least Mirko Lucchini in P4 for the head-to-head battle with Alpha Delta. Harry Smith gets a brilliant P5. Stefan Ruwald now in the HGP, backing up his teammate with another really strong drive. Mike Quint, championship leader, heading into our break, is 7th. Federico Russo, Patrick Roszak, and Luke Mitchell complete our top 10. Robin Merling, now let's give him some credit because he was P10 as well in race 1. So to get Team Rookie Monsters really healthy points, that is a brilliant job from Robin. Scott Mitchell Malm, similar result for Kings here. The fact he qualified so well got him a lot of optimism into this race, and he delivers again. Menno Clont, P13 today. Still really good points from Altaforce. Bradley Sellers and Lucas Tylene went head-to-head to the line with 2 points versus 1 on the table. Bradley won the day there. Justin van der Smissen just missed out in 16th. Matthias Dabrowski, 17th there, but Hyperion did okay, I suppose, in circumstances. Daniel Scott had a lot of battling to do, but he got 18th. Philip Koenig, 19th, and Owen Phil Hausvik, 20th. David De Vries, again, the last to cross the line as a finisher. He's on the lead lap as well, so good showing for him. But sad news there for Pixelate. 2 cars in the points. Neither of them made it to the line. They are ranked 22nd and 24th, Raboli and Abler, with Zubinski in between. Unfortunate there. We saw Sandro Van Sand have an accident that took him out of this race. Jack Nichols retires for this race as well. And Tom Satterley, who was looking to build on his points in race 1, was involved in the accident early on in race 2. So he has one decent result and then the one retirement, I'm afraid.
Yeah, pretty miserable one for Savily, unfortunately. So let's see if there's anybody that wants to interview us, Eoin. I only see Justin van der Smissen. Always a favourite to talk to. Always has something interesting to say. I was just doing my math. So Mike Quinn obviously still leading the championship by 22 points, but Netrex have retaken the lead in the team's table by 15 points over Multiforce after that solid result, 3rd and 5th there, with Amara Watson holding on from Lucchini at the end.
Yeah, that was really important for Amari to hang on to the podium. I think the one-up on rivals Alpha Delta. The fact he usually is up for a chat as well whenever he has the time. So, as you say, it is a 22-point lead for Mike Quint in the championship. So he's actually lost 3 of those points from the 25 that he had to begin with. But yeah, that is still a really significant advantage heading into our first big break of the season, where we take 1 week off. So then we return in 4 weeks' time, as opposed to the usual fortnight. So that is that's June 13th to be precise, so just a month away. So I suppose Justin has been waiting probably 3 minutes, so he has earned the right, I think, to get a first call. What would you say, Ed?
I'd say I'm going to drag him in rather than waiting for you to give permission to me. But okay,
Yeah,
here we go.
Yeah. Hi, Justin. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Good. So would you like to describe your event today? I know I think you just missed out on some points, but I do still think you had a decent showing.
Yeah, both races went pretty decent. Race 1 was okay. Tire wear was not too bad. So it's definitely improvement from last time around, as you know. I had a bit of damage because I hit the wall in turn 8, I think, just slightly, as well as the Wall of Champions. But overall, the lap times were really consistent, so I could keep the pace. And yeah, it was more of a just drive it home to P17 race instead of like going for it. And then yeah, the second race I could have had points. I was turn 4, turn 5, I think. You had Jonas Abloh who crashed on the left hand side, and then Riboli had his front wing gone. And in turn 5, I was behind Riboli, and he had no front wing, but my downforce on the rear end just suddenly gone and I spun into the wall and left. If it wasn't for that, it would have been P14. So that's quite a shame. But yeah, it's definitely an improvement from last time around, and also still adjusting to my new setup. Since this weekend driving triple screens, so I'm still adjusting to it.
Yeah, that's a handy upgrade for the long term, I'm sure, Justin. I suppose, yeah, it is still a decent showing after your double DNF last time around. So De Vries, he managed to probably stop more times than anyone else and make it to the end both times. So was he just trying to experiment, or did you get any notice of what he was trying to do?
In race one, he was involved in the incident
Oh, yeah.
in turn 3-4, so he had a bit of damage, had to pit, and when he pit, the damage wasn't repaired, so he had to stop again. And then race two, I think he made a mistake on his own, lost his front wing. So I told him to pit, go to the softs, see how long they would last. I believe he pitted lap 4, and the tires lasted the whole race, but the final lap was a bit sketchy on the way end, he said. So, I mean, for him, it was more or less just finishing the race, getting his laps in.
And speaking of David, I think he is one of only 6 drivers who has finished every single race so far this season. So that is certainly impressive for a rookie. Although, of course, he's yet to score any points, unlike yourself, of course, Justin. So of course that's why he's behind in the championship. So going ahead into the break, obviously you're still getting used to your triple screen setup, but as you look forward to Spain, do you think that's going to be a decent track for you guys, or do you think it's going to take a lot of setup and a lot of practice to get VMS near the front there, or well, just near the midfield in the points? Of course, is probably more the aim.
Yeah, for David, I told him because of the incident, in the last few races when he had incidents, I told him just finish the races, get your laps in, because he's still sort of learning the car, but he's right on pace on the times that I do. But I think for Spain, we just need to drive a little bit more for me to get used to the triple screens, as well as to try and get to be on pace. Because I think the most of the time would be in the driving instead of in the setup. I think that's something we learned from the past few races. We spend a lot of time working on the setups, and every single round it was just not really the way we wanted it to go. So yeah, I think right now, over the I think 4-week break that we have, it's just gonna be driving a lot of laps and see where we end up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is time. It is time for spring break, I believe it's called. So, yeah, hopefully have a chance to regroup and use the triple monitors to the best effect starting next month in Spain. So, yeah, your battle with Kings Racing and Team Rookie Monsters, it didn't go your way today, but I wish you the very best of luck next time out.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you in Spain again.
Take care.
Cheers, Justin.
And we also have Massimiliano Raboli willing to have a chat, so he's very eager to have a word about
just
his,
like the race. He turned up late, but still going to deliver. So.
Yeah, he had an exceptional journey to the racetrack today, so let's have a word. Hello, Massimiliano. What a story for you today, having turned up looking for a drive. You got one. So how did you feel you got on?
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Well, I was surprised, to be honest, to be able to actually find a seat in the first place. So I guess I'm happy with how it went. Of course, I was a bit unlucky with race 2 because I had a kind of a screen freeze with 2 laps to go. So I lost the front wing and points. Well, no points for me at the end, but considering the amount of practice I had, I can be happy.
Yeah, without a doubt, I was really impressed with your performance out of the box in race 1. You got some very early overtakes completed, and you were building up really. I know 16th, the odds getting 15th were very, very long, but yeah, the fact that you were pushing so hard and you were very clean, you kept the car in race 1 very safe, and you were battling well. So the P16, I think it was most impressive.
Yeah, perhaps I pushed too hard actually in the first stint. I had the same issue in Imola as well with the softs, because I'm used with the FS2 car that I don't have to worry too much about tire wear. That's an issue I need to solve really and quickly maybe, but still I think I had a decent pace, all things considered, and yeah, I think it's a good way to build up momentum for potentially more rounds in the future.
Yeah, I certainly hope so as well.
What's that, sorry?
If Remco was just saying in my ear, there is an announcement from his side that it is certainly new knowledge to.
Certainly got time for you to do it if you want, Messi.
Yeah, if you want to
There's no one
announce.
else who wants to talk to us, but if I can say some stuff, but because of course you did a couple of races early in the season for Kings, didn't you? Where you scored a few points. You got a 9th in race 2, wasn't it, at Imola? So you certainly, well, even though it was a bit of a last minute, obviously call up for Pixelate. Did that previous experience help you from Kings, or was the case of, I'll just plonk a setup on and then just learn everything on that one lap you had before race 1, essentially, at full speed?
No, well, I did some laps in my lunch break today, so of course I had a little bit of preparation. If I didn't do any laps before the race, I wouldn't probably do it. Yeah, I guess again, it's been good practice this round. I guess for potentially joining the series. I think I already spoke with Remco for FS2. I'm not going to race in FS2 anymore because of a number of reasons. So of course the previous runs with Kings of course helped because I had the chance to learn the car, and now I'll try to maybe look for a primary seat in FS1. I know it will probably be difficult to find one because the grid is full basically, but I guess I'll try to look for one.
It wasn't full today. You could have either driven for Griffone or Pixelate today. I think it was unfortunate that we didn't have Giuseppe Saracino in the Griffone today, or of course Isaac Clark in the Pixelate. Both very, very quick drivers, but of course yeah, good opportunity for you, Massimiliano, going forward. And it means, of course, there's an optimal seat going spare in FS2, of course. Just to plug for Remco, anyone who wants that seat, you might want to talk to him. Don't talk to me, my team's full. But anyway.
I'm the odd one out between 2 team managers and free agent drivers.
I did promo earlier, so I thought I'd help Remco out.
Yeah, some more FS2 drama now.
That's all good. Anyway,
shame about how your race 2 ended, and obviously Jonas crashed a few moments after you. We just saw the replay at the very end, so yeah, that's my sympathies go out to you there. But whatever happens, Massimiliano, I really do wish you well. And any last thoughts before we let you go?
No, not really, to be honest. Again, I'm happy with how pace was. I'm thankful for the opportunity to drive, as it was really last minute. And yeah, we will see for the rest of the season what happens.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks very much for your time, and we'll hope to see you around very soon.
Yeah, thank you. See you.
Yeah.
It was great to hear from Massimiliano. A great story to tell, having basically turned up hoping for a job, and he got one. So well done to him. We have Eoin Philhausvik ready for a chat, so let's bring him in. Hi, Eoin. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. So yeah, it's a case of 100 to 1. Same old, I'm afraid. But I was able to see you battling very hard with some of those drivers, and you were almost in the points. I think in race 1 you had a run in 15th, battling away there, but just didn't work out. So what do you think went wrong in race 1?
Well, the dream is continuing, but it's still just a dream to get points with this team. But what went wrong? It's still a case of trying to learn setups, trying to learn the tires, and actually, I have to learn to actually race these cars the way they're supposed to race. Like I'm used to like driving LMP2s and sports cars and all that, and I was behind a driver on hards. I was on softs. Like I didn't take the chances that I should have, I think, and I should have actually dove down the inside when I should have, and like driven like a Formula 1 driver, I guess.
So it was Koenig, I think, in the Griffon you were stuck behind in the first stint, who was on the hards.
Yeah,
so you're saying
maybe.
you stuck behind him, decided race 1, sort of compromised that strategy of yours.
Yeah, I got some damage on the first lap as well. It didn't help. And I was behind him, and I kind of cooked my tires, I think, trying to battle him. And yeah, it's the same case as the other races where I'm just trying to learn these tires and trying to battle without absolutely killing them.
It must be said, though, the reason you were up there is because you put in an amazing qualifying lap, wasn't it? You split the rookie monsters in a 14th position, which, considering where 100 to 1 normally qualify, sort of like if they just about sneak into the top 20, qualifying top 15 and 14 is an amazing result for you, for considering where you're at right now.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, throughout my sim racing career, qualifying has always been one of my weakest points. And this time out, I didn't have a lot of time to practice. I haven't been in my country, and I've been here for like 3 days. And I was trying to, get my overall pace up and trying to get like a good qualifying pace ready. And I set a personal best as well today in the actual qualifying session. And, that's a positive. And I think that's pretty big for me that I can actually kind of qualify the places where I want to finish. But, I got to get the races going and the setup and the tires. Like, I'm in a unique position in my sim racing career where I'm in a team that doesn't give me everything to begin with. I've been in big, or good teams who have given me setups and put everything on the plate for me. And now I have to build that on my own, or not on my own. I'm with Sandra, of course, but it's a challenge, But I think it's gonna end up with me improving as a driver, learning these setups, and approaching these races in that way.
Oh, well, the soft spot I have for 100 to 1 and Ben Constantine's team. If I had an FS1 team and I had drivers that had FS1 setups, I'd gladly share them with you, Eoin. But unfortunately, I'm in FS2, so I'm not sure how useful they are for you guys at all.
Bro, it might be better. It might be better than what I'm cooking.
We'll see. I'll see if I can get Joe Gillette on the line, maybe. But anyway, Eoin. I've race 2. I saw at one point you got up to, was it 16th or 17th, and then you dropped back again, I think, to outside the top 20 by the finish. So I wasn't quite sure what happened. We didn't see too much of it on stream, but I think, did Daniel Scott just get you near the end, if I'm not mistaken, or was that race 1 I'm thinking of?
Race 2, Daniel Scott did get ahead of me. But race 2, I mentally was boomed. I got passed by like 3 guys on one corner. And I kind of tapped the wall of champions. Gave me a good bit of damage on the rear right, and that combined with me being bad at tires, like I was sliding every corner. Every corner I had to catch it. Every corner I had to. It was like driving rally. I was losing positions then, and I was like, this is over.
And that was on the hards, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the hards, and there's something I gotta figure out with those tires and this car. But I guess that's gonna come with time, hopefully.
Exactly. We saw an amazing display actually up front because Victor Ivanov decided to risk it on the softs and was able to nurse them to the end somehow in second position.
Yeah,
which was a pretty extraordinary tire whisperer performance that
yeah,
I've only seen a few drivers ever do.
I saw that and I was thinking like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? But
Because I imagine everyone who started on hards is hoping those on the softs would pit, but they decided to risk it, and Abler did the same and spun out right on the final lap, I think, whilst running in 13th in the points. So it can easily go the other way. So it shows it's not necessarily what tires you run, it's how you use them, isn't it?
yeah. Something like that.
There we go.
So, I'm tired, bro.
I know.
It's like 28 degrees in my room, and
oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was that hot.
Like a Norwegian shouldn't be in this room.
It's 100 to 1 the setting on the thermostat.
Maybe I'll get to practice more. Maybe I'll get to practice more when it's less hot outside and I'm not outside as much. As well.
Absolutely. Get the cool vest on. Get some ice packs on you.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, so build up those supplies on because it's a month to wait until the Spanish Grand Prix at Catalonia. So would that be a track familiar to you from your sports car days?
No. I can't even remember if I've driven on that on our factor or anything like that. Maybe I have a long time ago, but it's not something special for me. It's not something that I'm particularly good at. But I'm
commentated on a race you did one time in endurance zone, but that may have been a long time ago, like 4 years ago.
maybe. I'll approach every race the same. I'll try to see if I can get more practice done now that I'm actually in the country. Yeah.
Right, so Eoin, thanks very much for your time, and we wish you the very best of luck going forward. So we'll let you go. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
So that's everybody who came forward, Ed. So yeah, a good solid showing from the interviewees who were perhaps battling lower down the grid, but it was great to hear from them all. So how do you feel our first segment of the season has gone so far?
Yeah, no point scorers, sadly, in the interview room, but they had plenty of points to say, and lovely to hear from all their perspectives as well, because we're so used to interviews hearing from the front runners, so those in the midfield in their own battles to try and learn and gain experience in GPV's third tier is always great to hear. But in terms of the championship, it's still very much that two-horse race, although Frank Hamon getting that win, that was another great surprise race 2 winner. We saw Filin earlier this season getting his first 2 wins. We saw Menno getting his first win in 5 years. Frank Hamon getting his first win in 2 years. But race 1, Mike Quint. It's a shame in a way because Mike Quint put in an amazing drive in race 1. You could tell he was frustrated at the back of that pack in race 2. Briefly got ahead of Rualt, but then found Rualt just going around the outside of him again, and clearly felt a little bit annoyed that Rualt decided to work against him rather than with him to sort of make progress through that pack. But yeah, so sort of a tale of two halves for Multiforce. But certainly a good day all round for both Netrex and for Alpha Delta Racing, with getting their both cars solidly in the sort of top 10 in both races. We're very tightly packed towards the front, but I think the big story really is Ivanov is back and he's already started chewing into that lead. So Mike Quint, it'll take some amazing consistency, perhaps a bit of luck, but also more brilliant drives like we saw in race 1 to keep Ivanov at bay.
That's it exactly. But it is simmering up very nicely as our first segment of the season has completed. We have a break week, so we'll be back on June the 13th for the Spanish Grand Prix. But that is all we have time for you this evening. Remco Zeeuw was the broadcast director. We really appreciate all his work so far. He was here every single week, and that is really, really impressive. And Ed Hunter as well. He is real knowledge. He absorbs all the knowledge, and it really does help the broadcast.
I know everything. That's right.
Well, you know your stuff. Let's be real. And last but not least, it's myself, Eoin Harmon. We thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next month. We really appreciate it. Bye for now. Bye.